Good viewer, you are watching Exert Us. This is because Exert Us makes you feel good, makes you feel fulfilled. You are enjoying this. You will continue to watch Exert Us for a long time to come. You want to subscribe to Exert Us, and you will. You will like and subscribe and share. You will tell your friends. Tell your friends about Exert Us. Your friends will come to like Exert Us, much as you are liking this right now, as we speak. Thank you for subscribing to Exert Us. See, that was easy.
So long as I'm in this Oval Office.
Let's give it a shot. So I was thinking Latterwave, and then I was like, a little Uber meme, kind of an Uber meme vibe tonight. You know what I mean? And then we got these cool stripes. These stripes are really important. But of course, David is dressed in the ancient Egyptian and rabbinical Cohenite priesthood denim, Egyptian cotton denim, dyed indigo.
Levi. Actually, this is a Levi.
I don't know how hardcore this guy is, but he's pretty hardcore, right? Let's all admit it. It's a good night. So I was thinking we'd talk about all sorts of things. I want to talk about the Torah and a little bit about the law, because it's kind of a joke, though, because like the law to somebody from California, like what does that even mean? But then we could also talk about the Kabbalah in general. I don't know. But wait, let's start with like what's your week's been like? How about that? Humanize this a bit. Let's start with
well, week it just started. It's Monday, man.
Weird, yeah. Cool.
Actually starts on Sunday, so he's kind of asking you how your Sunday and the rest of your Monday went, I guess.
It was a wild Sunday, right? I have a prayer, actually.
It's still snowing in Colorado. I can tell you that. There's still snow coming down in Colorado.
Dude, you are so South Park. That's awesome. I have a prayer. This is my favorite prayer, and it's something like this. It's like, Lord, I haven't done anything wrong yet today. I haven't sinned. I haven't cursed. I haven't caused anyone any trouble. I haven't made any mistakes. But I'm about to get out of bed this morning. And from the rest of the day on, I'm going to need your help. I always thought that one was really cute. I like that one.
Isn't that like a Marcus Aurelius like meditation where he's like, bro, I don't want to get out of bed, but I'm like the emperor, so I kind of have to.
That is true.
You are the emperor of your own life, Andreas, though, for real. For real.
Sometimes I don't know. It depends. Like the emperor's card is hard, though, right? How about that? What about the emperor's card? And then David didn't tell us about his Sunday or his week either.
My Sunday? I don't know. What do I got? I don't know if I got anything. I've been.
You didn't work.
Well, no, I worked on Shabbat. I worked on and then I, as I usually do. I'm not observant enough on Shabbat. I just
shipping it up.
Go to work and I'm
You're shipping
and whatever. So I'm like, And yeah, and then Sunday I basically did nothing, and then today I pretty much did nothing. So yeah, I don't know, nothing exciting there. Sorry.
Did this come up already, this idea that, like, you know, time matters? Because if, by the way, Crypto, I did send you a link, just because, you know, you were eager. But I was thinking about, like, God doing things in 7 days and resting on the seventh day, right? So the idea that your eternal rest, you're waiting to do anything, and then when there's time, all of a sudden it's like, I better get things done as quickly as possible so I can rest, right? Because you're gonna die someday, right? So
Well,
this imminency makes you want to do things early.
right. Well, you know, they don't relate to it in such a linear way. So literally the 6 days are literally twisting around the seventh. So the seventh is like the seventh point in the hexagram. So it's the space. So that's the idea. It's the
Dang.
basically, yeah, yeah.
Can I find a visual of that?
I mean, you
What,
if
what
you
does,
wanted
what does
a
Sabbath really mean, though? Like, if you look at Shabbat, like, basically, doesn't it mean like the father and the mother? The mother, yeah.
Abbat. Oh, that's good. Abbat.
So it's basically the day that you get to bone. I mean, that's what some people. It's like you get 6 days of working where you're focused on the production of whatever. I mean, most of ancient Judaism is pretty socialist, and it basically says that for 6 days you have to help take care of everybody, and on the seventh day you get to sleep in and have morning sex.
right, it's kind of like in Sweden, certain jobs in Sweden have it that you actually get like a sex break, like enough time to, like, you know, because Stockholm is pretty small, so it's like you have time to go home, have sex, and come back, because they've noticed that people's productivity is better when they get that. So because it's just all optimized towards best performance, you know. It's kind of like they found, it's weird that they have this thing with, like, with schools, like even elementary school and junior high and high school, where they've found that they get better results when kids get to sleep in before they, like, when you're like, you have to be up at like 6 to get your ass to school, like, you just don't perform as well. So it's kind of funny that, like, we've shown that helps, and yet very few schools actually, like, do that anyway. It's just like, well, that really doesn't, you know, doesn't work as well.
Piano gigger, what's up, bro? So we got our Native American piano playing Tartarian brother who does all the music from the Orpheus chat. He's also friends with Zach. How you been, man?
Good, man. Doing good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but you're not Crypto Alchemist. It's not like a double name thing. It's just you so happen to give him a link too, so we could end up with 5 people on the call.
It could happen. I'm
It
sorry.
could happen. Okay.
Totally
No, it's
sent
fine.
it-
It's
I
fine if
sent
we
it-
do. I'm not
I
complaining.
sent it to Zach's wrecking crew, so it could be like a whole bunch of clowns could pop out at any moment. But
Right.
we have control whoever it is. I actually like Piano Giger a lot. I think he's like someone who knows a lot about the stuff that we're going to talk about tonight, because we're talking a bit about like the mysticism and how things are tied together, also with like traditions. And you know, what is you're part of which tribe again, or related to which Native American tribes?
Hopi.
Hopi. So
Oh,
they're
Hopi.
Yeah, they're more of a nomadic tribe.
which is
They have all the
kind of like
stories,
tied to
like
the
the
vibe.
spider goddess mother, and I got my
Yeah.
old
Yeah.
dream catcher back there.
You know, I meet Native Americans,
But I'm
every
heavily
so often.
bearded for an
From-
Indian,
from-
but I have the
from
hair.
Okay, from South Dakota and various places, and not once when I've asked them what their tribe is have they said Mohawk. They never say Mohawk. It's like, I don't know, is there descendants of the Mohawks, or is it just something that they don't know or they don't want to share? I don't really know.
Isn't
But
that movie? That's the last of them, right? I thought that was the whole point.
the Mohicans, yeah, the Mohawks. I actually have family in
Well-
that movie who I've never met, but my sister has, playing Mohicans, even though I'm
My
not
actual
native, so
my
I don't
actual-
know how that happened.
my actual real name is Zuni Indian. If you look it up, like in APM, I'm Taci, Taci. So that's actually a Zuni Indian name. My parents were just hippies and did what they did.
That's pretty based. That ties in. But like, I mean, there's a lot to it. Also, like, it's random that you brought up the spider god thing, because not just South Park and the spider god.
Spider Woman. Be specific, because this, I think, is kind of
Well, yeah,
And-
no,
and
you know what?
important distinction.
Will, you be specific. No, you be specific.
No,
Why don't
because
you elaborate?
I just did a show with Frank Zero this morning where we looked at Spider-Woman, and we were looking like all of that. Like Spider-Woman is a 1978 cartoon by Marvel
I have it
Comics.
on VHS actually.
But if you ever watch it, it is absolutely insane. Like it covered. There's actually one episode where the cartoons actually goes live action. Then there's ones where they deal. I think the first one is called Pyramids of Terror. There's one where there's a whole bunch where they go to the moon. Anyways, it's just weird because I was wondering a lot about the Spider-Woman myth all day today, just because it covers like a lot of ground. It's like a creation myth, isn't it?
Yes. When I there's a bunch of things there, but yeah, when I was a kid, I remember I would go to the video rental place, and they had this like cutout of Kiss of the Spider-Woman, and I was like, what's that? I want to watch that. And then I had assumed that it was something related with the cartoon that I had on VHS as a kid of Spider-Woman. And it's like, no, this is
well, I
not
mean, the reason,
I
okay, I
wanna
looked
watch
into it. The reason why there's a Spider-Woman in Marvel is basically because it was getting to that point where they didn't want somebody else to make. So they had like TV shows that were starting to come out. And when the Hulk TV show came out, they made a She-Hulk because they didn't want the TV to make the character. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So then they would have Spider-Man, they would want to have Spider-Woman, so that if they made a cartoon, the company that was making the cartoon couldn't spin off and get the royalties for that character.
Mhm.
And that created Spider-Woman, which was, I mean, it's like a Fortean escapade. There's lizard people and there's witchcraft and NASA, and it's out of control. It just seems like the psychedelic trip. But I just thought that, I don't know, maybe in a sync way, if being a synchromistic, that I could tie it to some mythology.
Yeah, the Khan mythology in Africa, right, which is also kind of interesting because Brer Rabbit and a lot of the Songs of the South stories are actually from Afro mystical, ancient traditions, including specifically the Akan is where Brer Rabbit comes from. And one of their main stories is the spider goddess creation myth, which is basically like, there's a giant deluge. The spider wraps and survives by making like a big web that like survives in this during the deluge.
Oh, I can dig it. All right.
Yeah.
Wait. Okay. Well, I mean, all right. So first off, I've been meaning to talk to you guys about that whole lake / the God's wife.
Look, there she is too. There it is.
Okay. Good job.
Go ahead though. Yeah, you want to talk about the God's wife? Sorry.
Well, yeah. What's the name? The Jewish. You guys have been doing a lot of rabbi interviews.
Wait a minute. What was that signature? The Rider Waite signature?
Let's talk about mother goddesses. Let's get
didn't
down.
it look like it?
Gritty.
Yeah, that's Rider Waite. Is that the same person that did the Rider Waite deck, or what am I? I don't know.
It does like it. Illustration from Pamela Coleman Smith, maybe?
I don't know.
A mystic tarot card creator who did the cards for Arthur Edward Waite, the Rider Waite.
Oh, the Waite deck. Yeah, that's the signature that's on the Waite deck.
Okay, well then that's a little more important. I'm saving that to my desktop then. That's what I'm gonna do right now. What is up with that? Okay, but so then just so we all remember, Song of the South. So this is all the basis for Uncle Remus from Romulus and Remus, right?
Right.
So there's a lot to that. And also, dude, one of the best movies that's so underrated that Disney needs to bring back for ethical purposes, because they demanded that Uncle Remus's actor be present at the premiere in Georgia, or they wouldn't show the movie in the state. Right. There was also, this is one of the first movies to be biracial. That was over the top. It's crazy that this movie is banned now.
Right. Isn't it twisted? It's literally the opposite. And there was no DEI, ESG pressure at the time. It was literally like more integrative than anything else. So it's a historic,
wildly based Disney moment. Yeah. It's crazy. It's weird. Asherah is the goddess that you're thinking of, the mother of El Elyon of the Elohim.
We're getting some stomping on some keys over here. I don't know.
I know, but it's
That's
cute. I was actually gonna solo it because it's really cool. Oh wait, is it Gigger? Maybe Gigger. No, but like, okay, so Asherah or Etherat, I guess is another way to say it. Etherat, Asherah.
But you're talking about a lake associated with her, Will. Is that what you're saying? Was it a lake? I'm thinking Nemi, but
her
it's
name
something
is the
totally different.
same. Okay, so if you look up her with walking on water, there's a lot of mythology about her with water. But if you change that ASH to ACH and add like a U in the end of the name, you get an ancient lake or a swamp in which it is. No.
This
I
is still
sent
great
it to you.
though. I don't know. You got me somewhere, and I'll take it. But
No,
yeah,
no. I think that all of those words are mixed together and they all have to do with like some sort of feminine aspect of God. So here,
Okay,
let me see if I can
dude,
find the
is
lake.
this so? My question immediately is this like some kind of maybe precursor to Diana as Nemi? So the lake Nemi associated with the goddess Diana is like the center of the golden bough ritual.
You know what I'll
So is
do?
there is there some connection there? I wonder.
I definitely think there is some sort of like mother goddess like lineage going on, whether it's just subconscious or whether it's diffused. I don't know. I
dude,
will.
what's the Hopi thing? Do you know by any chance, Tossie? Is it? I'm just looking it up. Kokyung Wutu. Have you heard of this before? Spider grandmother. That's what you're saying
Yes.
earlier, I guess. Okay, that's so. It's just crazy. Oh my god, it's all spider women. The whole
It's all.
world.
It's like
That's
water
a lot.
spiders.
That's a lot, bro. So the Catholic Church in South Park isn't wrong about the spider. You know that thing, right? South Park.
Right.
Catholic
South
spider.
Park, there's a spider running the Catholic Church.
Yeah, bro. There it is. The queen spider of the
Yeah.
Catholic Church. The
Oh
queen
yes.
spider.
See, that's important, bro.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah,
right.
that episode always felt like it was like some kind of crazy whistleblowing episode. Like they got exposed to something there, and they were like, "How do we share this and just like make it funny so we can get away with it?" Like you're not
Man.
supposed to say this. Yeah.
I don't know. That seems kind of wild, though, to me that there'd be that many. Because I'm a big there be dragons person. If there are that many cultures talking about dragons, there are probably dinosaurs or dragons or like avian theropod bird reptiles. Something exists.
Kenneth Grant went off about the spider thing too. Kenneth Grant had the book of the spider thing. I think it was malarkey. I think it was twaddle, but it was interesting nonetheless. He was on one. I don't know what was going on
The
with that
book
guy.
of the spider. Where do I find that? I'm looking
Kenneth
at
Grant. Kenneth
Yeah.
Grant. Actually, I have like a PDF of it, but yeah, if you want an actual copy of his books, like some of them, a few of them are like they're like Scientology book expensive. They're like like not Dianetics, but like those ones that you'll pay
Oh, here it
like
is. Right? Is
hundreds
this
of
it?
thausands of probably.
This is Paul Hillard, though. No, this is not.
That's he's probably speaking to it, maybe, but yeah, it might be speaking to the same thing. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's a very rare Kenneth Grant book. Where he goes over and I think he might reference it in the Night Side of Eden there. But yeah, these books are so expensive, but they're like a lot of fudged gematria for him to be able to like argue what he wants to argue and give a basis for it. He'll make connections exist between things that if you do the math don't actually like align, but it's fun, I don't know.
Yeah, and just here he is.
He was the successor of the OTO.
Yeah.
So
he looks like it.
I found the name of the lake right there. I do not know how to pronounce it.
Acherusia.
And I think that it is connected to that female name of God because she walks on water, and this is a lake that everybody walks on. This right here, this lake, which is only in like apocryphal text of like
I see
Christianity.
Russia.
It's basically like it's the lake that bridges the city of Christ and where Adam gets his sins washed. It's basically the source of where we get the idea of baptizing. but it's also like it echoes throughout. But I have a feeling, because it's like, if you look at the like Nag Hammadi and the Dead Sea Scrolls, the tale of wisdom pulling up Yab Dibbawath, or whatever, however you pronounce his name, out of the water is where we get baptizing from. Do you get what I'm saying? But that like face on, there's this whole mythology about that face on the water that he sees, but when he comes out of it, he thinks is a reflection, so he doesn't think that there's any God left. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
And
it
so,
also
like,
kind of brings up the story of Narcissus too, right?
Right. Absolutely. Thank you, David. Thank you.
Mm.
But seeing yourself in the opposite or the other sex, so to speak.
Did James Hillman ever speak to this?
I'm not sure. I
the Dream
tracked
in the
it down
Underworld,
because I was looking at a different. There was something that David Koresh said where he named off of these different names for the female aspect of God. And that led me to this lake just by tracking words down. And then I kind of figured that they were related, but it's basically a sync. Like the names are not pronounced the same, but they have basically the same meaning.
Early baptism involved like literally like taking people to the point of almost drowning before they would bring them back. So it's really like a kind of like a
you want a good baptism. Yeah.
I mean, like that makes sense to me. Like that baptism, like religiously, like that makes sense. The like, 6 feet apart spraying with the squirt gun from across the room baptism. And that happened.
I love it though.
I don't know about that one.
No, you're right. I think having a Jesus Christ Heartstoppers movie where it's like they're like, you want to be baptized, hold them down, like, and then like and then they breathe life back into you, and it's like that movie with Keanu Reeves, Constantine. It was like, after I died, I saw the devils.
You know what? I gotta say that there's something. Excuse me, but I think that there's something really weird. Really freaking weird about baptizing babies, because it's like you haven't had the life experience.
Babies are christened though. They're kind of like
christened. Yeah. But do they get get christened as a child and then get baptized when you're older?
Babies have it coming. If you think you just don't deal with enough babies. Like they're constantly like, they just crap all over your lives. That's what they're basically just these. If they were a grown person, like babies are just naked people that crap everywhere and scream all the time. I'm giving them all this credit just because they're so young, they don't know any better. Ignorance is no excuse.
I mean, maybe we are just like big babies too.
You've been going there for months, but you're in the neighborhood. You don't have the address. So Andreas, you got to turn back, bro.
We'll save the babies. Don't worry. I'm just saying, like, you can't just say
being an amniotic fluid is kind of like its own like 9-month baptism too, right? So I don't know.
I feel like that's like every good cartoon though, is like these kids find a monster and it's innocent because it's a baby monster and they have to figure out what to do. Like they want to save and raise this wild, like crazy dragon or demon or, right? And it's always like the parents are like, oh, this thing will grow up. Fox and a hound. This thing will grow up to become itself, right? Because it's in its nature. And like they teach that a lot.
What was the thing with Fox and the Hound? I haven't seen that since I was watching it with Umaguma.
Oh, dude, Fox and the Hound's about Palestine and Israel, right? It's about it's about the Nazis.
Okay, all right.
It's about like, I don't know how else you do it. Like it's a movie about a fox that's gonna grow up to be, there's these two kids. And when they grow up, they're going to become a fox and a hound.
Right.
And guess how that world works.
Right. It's like Romeo and Juliet, but with pets.
Well, it's a little bit more homey, or a little more platonic.
A curse on both your houses, the fox and the hound's houses. Melissa says christening equals baptism as a baby. First communion is 7 years old. Confirmation is around 12. Maybe more stuff if you want. But yeah, interesting.
Well, I just think it's interesting because like
Fox and the Hound banned yet?
A baptism is like a second birth, right? It's like you're the mother's water breaking for the second time.
Exactly. Yeah. To be born again. Who was the disciple that couldn't comprehend being born again? I wasn't understanding that, and Jesus has to break it down for him. I forgot.
I'm surprised that Fox and the Hound isn't banned yet. It seems like Fox and the Hound would be something that would be banned far before Song of the South.
Why?
Because Song of the South teaches that racism is a problem that has all sorts of abstract reasons that we've led to it, and that you might not understand why it happened, but you need to learn about it so you can do the best you can in your own choices. Whereas Fox and the Hound is saying, you might be innocent, you might not know any better, but you are a white male. And this guy, your friend, you think he's your friend? No, that is a victim. And you two will never be able to be amicable, let alone have like platonic love and community and positive reciprocity, because that's against the rules. And it's perpetuated racism, right? Which I guess is what we experience more. But it's really sad because in Song of the South, it's realized that the way of things are wrong, and so the people with all the power choose to go against the flow of dogma. Like, so this lady tells him not to work, and she's like, all right, you know what, it's actually good that you work. It's not normal, but you tell kids stories, so I'm going to keep you around, right?
Is this relatable to the distinction between equality and equity, or MLK versus Malcolm X or something?
It should be. It feels like that power. Like, I don't know how to logically.
That might be a stretch, but
emotionally it is
describing that, and that's what came up in my head. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, that's right.
The Fox and the Hound is like you. It's kind of also like you're just children, right? You're not a fox. You're not a hound, right? Because he's a pup, right? And I don't remember.
This is not what the movie looks like.
Hell no.
Whatever they did with the coloring here.
I don't know what it looks like anymore, but it kind of does.
Visual.
This
is what it looks like.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. But these guys grow up to be like mortal enemies, and it's not that they want to be, and that it doesn't make sense, right? Like that we are perpetuating that more. Like that this
it's basically the story of Rey and Kylo. But
fair enough.
They're both males.
Is Fox and the Hound like one of the earliest Disney movies? I mean,
no, it's from the 80s. I think it's like one of the newer ones.
No, get the fuck out. I don't.
Yeah,
it's from the 80s. The voice was Keith Coogan.
1981.
No, really?
Yeah.
Keith Coogan is involved.
It's based on a 1967 novel.
Kirk Russell is a voice in there also.
Okay.
Yeah, it's based on a book from 67.
Because it still had that kind of that animation style that the older Disney movies had. I mean, the earliest feature-length cartoon in history was Snow White.
Right,
and
32, something like that.
And the animation in Snow White, it feels like it looks like a mushroom trip. Like the way that the suspended animation moves, it's like the same. Like if you've ever like had trails from 2 hits of acid or eaten like an 1/8 of shrooms, like it's literally doing that. But Fox the Hound kind of does that too. And I think that there was probably a breaking point with this type of animation. I don't know what maybe it was less frames of animation per second that did that. I'm not really sure, but yeah, it's psychedelic.
Hayao Miyazaki, I feel Hayao Miyazaki kind of takes that, because it's like it's not really one frame kind of blends into the other in a very liquid way.
Yeah.
They were way more meticulous than they are now. Nowadays they're just trying to do things cheap.
In Fox and the Hound, or
I was trying to pull Miyazaki, but it's not even worth it.
I'm sorry. What were you saying?
Here's how it happens. So Disney to Miyazaki, we start out with Disney, and Disney does rotoscoping. And rotoscoping is where you like film something, and then you like it frame for frame. And then they taught them, and by the point of Bambi, they got rotoscoping down. Even Soviet cartoons start to copy it. It becomes like this thing where.
But rotoscope is weird because there's different uses of rotoscope, right? Like Industrial Light and Magic would apparently, when they'd use the plane of glass that they would paint, and then they would film something and then insert what they filmed to match the edges of what's the spaces in the glass. Like, and they have the rotoscope machine like faces down towards it, right? I mean, I'm no expert on that.
So it's a stereoscopic camera, which was designed and patented by the Walt Disney Company, and so it has planes that they can record, and they can even use camera obscuras to put levels inside of that. Gigger. No, I'm just kidding. I'll just mute it. So I'll unmute to talk. But it's cool. But
Don Bluth. Oh, do you guys know who Don Bluth is?
Yeah, wait. We're gonna get there. So wait, Disney does rotoscoping, does the stereoscopic camera system to record things, teaches all of these people by having their labs look at films to draw frame for frame to understand how many, like looking at just grass, right? Like how grass moves in the wind. You know, in 24 frames a second, 12 frames a second, 18 frames a second. Turns out 18 frames a second looks pretty good. 24 frames a second is perfect enough for them. And then they move on. Now, by the point of the strike, Disney is working on Dumbo, and all of these people start striking at Disney because of his, and he starts working with the FBI to call them communists and stuff, which is how he probably gets killed, right? Because of the CIA and everything else later. But Disney says, okay, I'm going to let my animators do what they want. And you've got animators that are trying to, like, before that, he's burning animations that are not quite perfect for Fantasia. All of a sudden, he needs Dumbo out. So he has Dumbo made, and they say, okay, well, let's just like eyeball it. And these are the best animators they have. So they know how many frames. It's like, what is that? Like 12 frames it's going to take for the grass to move? Probably like 18. They know how long it takes minimal, at that point.
Yeah.
So that invents this new kind of animation, which is kind of influenced from both Ub Iwerks. By the way, I forgot Ub Iwerks is like Disney started with Ub Iwerks on a train making his animations for him before he loses Ub Iwerks, and then he gets his rotoscoping team because he's like, I have to have a scientific method. But now you have animators that understand all that stuff, and they're able to make this fluid. Oh, let's make it take 6 frames instead. Well, that'd be crazy, right? Or like, well, we'll just draw it out a bit so you see it happen. Right. So that all starts in Dumbo.
Yeah. It's weird to me that it's like, I like what they did with Snow White. Like, I want to see new movies made that way. I want to see new animated films like made that way. I mean,
well, you'd have to like destroy an economy, like maybe in like
they're gonna say what NASA says. They're like, we've lost that technology. I'm sorry, like we can't do that style of animation. It's gone. I don't know.
David,
that's what they
do you know? Do you know who Don Bluth is?
I recognize the name, and I'm in my mind.
The guy who made Dragon's Lair, the video game, like animator that
Don
made Space Ace. American Tail.
Don Bluth is a Mormon. Don Bluth is a Mormon, bro. He went to BYU. He went to Brigham Young University. He went to Brigham Young University, and not only that, he made the movie.
Oh, The Secret of Nim.
He made The Secret of Nim. He made
when you know who he is, you'll recognize his style over multiple epics, multiple things that you value in your life.
Hebel and the Penguin comes up. Fievel, the American Tail, we said. All right, there's just so many he did.
Well, I mean, Dragon's Lair is important because Dragon's Lair was an animation that he made and put on a laser disc, and basically in the video game that you would play in the 80s.
The video game too, interactive.
Yeah.
First of its
kind. You would choose the next chapter. If you got it correct, you continued the game. If you got it wrong, it played the death sequence. But that's why it was huge in the 80s, because it was like this time period where we had really limited graphics, but he was actually using it as like a DVD, or how like Netflix use a choose your own adventure kind of deal.
I got a more messed up one than that though.
Or the Sega Holo game.
So
the cowboy and stuff. I know that game very well. Yeah.
All right, but how about Land Before Time? Okay.
Did he do Land Before Time?
Oh yes, he did with Spielberg. What is Land Before Time about?
I believe that Land Before Time is a play on the movie. It's Obscured by Clouds by Pink Floyd was a soundtrack to a French film called The Valley. And I think it's just like archetypally, they took the concept of the Valley and applied it as a children's film with The Land Before Time. So, actually, Obscured by Clouds syncs with the Valley. Like if you started at the right point, it does that thing. Same thing with Pink Floyd's album More and the film More. So like those are some of their earlier albums that I don't believe that these were just like regular.
This is on Wikipedia that it's Pink Floyd syncs with it. That's interesting. So like it's
totally. Yeah, so I think it's a play because they say the Valley and then Obscured by Clouds. So it's literally the Valley Obscured by Clouds. And if you watch in Land Before Time, where they're looking for the Great Valley, and the whole movie kind of culminates in them finding it. you know. But so, and then also the Land Before Time syncs incredibly well with a momentary lapse of reason, and so it seems like they were like trying, like harkening back to the other times by doing that. But yeah, it's a Land Before Time is produced by Spielberg and Lucas. Is that correct? Am I?
I don't
tripping?
remember if Lucas is involved. That would make sense. Let's see, Land Before Time. I know Spielberg did produce it. Let me see if Lucas is involved. George Lucas. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That's fascinating for so many other reasons. So here's the deal, though, by created with Don Bluth. Okay, because he also made Titan AE, which is about Starbase Kolob, and there's a lot of Mormon stuff in all of his work. So here's the official story. Don Bluth, who is LDS, Land Before Time is about the Mormon exodus into Utah, and Littlefoot is Brigham Young. And I didn't even make this up. Read the article where they interviewed him about it. That's how crazy this gets. Okay, Land Before Time is about Mormonism. Now, I'm sure for Spielberg and for a lot of people, it's about a lot of Exodus, you know.
Well, right? all Exodus,
but that just made it confirms the Kabbalah level of Spielberg if he's down,
right? And all you need to do is look at the Joseph Campbell book, The Power of Myth, and like even just beyond that, it's like how much like Star Wars took from so many different things. They'll be like, Star Wars is a ripoff of Dune. It's like, dude, Star Wars is not a ripoff of anything. It's taking from so many different things.
It's fair use. Star Wars is fair use. I want that bumper sticker.
Yeah, and so you could.
It's almost like halfway to like public domain.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. But I mean, I think that's really interesting that there are these cartoons that kind of talk about like repetitive struggles that happen. Like the Exodus is an interesting idea, and just like the Hopi being nomadic, that ties into this idea also of nomadicism in this world, right? So the fact that we're talking about these repeating events, these repeating kind of stories that are held by all of these people. There was a dude. This is another reason why I was kind of interested in this. Let me find it really quickly. There we go. This dude is a chief of the Ojibwe, one of the Ojibwe tribes, Chief Midigwa or something like that. I don't know if you guys have heard of this dude, but he's been posting all sorts of stuff because he's like a Freemason, a chief of one of the tribes. So he's like a BLM rep and knows about government and he knows about the Book of Mormon. So he's been saying like, hey, dude, the tribes are literally the Israelis. Like these are like the same people that at some point have taken boats back and forth and they've interacted back and forth. I don't know. It seems interesting to me if there's like similar stories that are existing in North Africa where Semitic people are, and especially where they're supposed to have exodused out. This idea of like the spider goddess. But I don't know if there's anything you think of like that's Jewish about a spider goddess, David. I don't know.
Spider symbolism and Jewish mysticism. I've seen that.
Don't even do it. Okay.
No, in European occultism, I've seen that related.
Good job, Red Dad.
And also just like all the weird stuff that people will do when they're studying war with the Klipot. It's like there's those associations of the spider I see associated with that, but that's all like relatively newer stuff. There might be something that I haven't come across, but yeah. Creation
of the web of life. I'm trying to do an AI search real quick. Shekinah, the spider is linked to the Shekinah, the web, the web and the matrices. Popular
my
of
rabbi,
David in the spider. David
my rabbi might just totally correct me if he was here. He'd just be like, "What are you talking about? The spider?
The spider's everywhere." David and the spider is a popular Jewish folktale telling the story of King David hiding in a cave from his enemies. A spider quickly wove a web over the entrance, leading the pursuers to believe that the cave was empty.
Is that a Rabbi Nachman story or something? What is that?
I hope it's real. Let's find out if AI just made that up. Is this real? Where is...
Okay, I got to spin.
Okay.
They have all kinds of bizarre stories.
Mm-hmm.
They have stories about the trees and UFOs coming down and all kinds of crazy stuff.
It's found in the Sefer HaAgadah, the Book of Legends. And yeah.
I'm not familiar with that.
This feels like that other episode of South Park where he's like, I'm from the other Jewish sect and the Jew Scouts. Like, what? Okay. There's a black and white picture on the Wikipedia page, so I'll take it. Right?
Okay.
That seems legit. 1903.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
The Book of Legends.
Yeah, bro. So a spider
These
helps.
guys, they
Bro, that
wrote
looked
the
like
Book of Legends. Those are the writers of the Book of Legends in the early 1900s.
I believe it. They look cool.
Okay. Let me tell you
Bialik
about
and
this.
Ranitsky.
Mm.
I don't know. I don't know.
Hmm.
Like maybe the spider is not like a huge deal, but the idea also of people being from everywhere. Like, do you think that? What do you think of that idea? Like the native tribes of Israel not starting in Israel but ending up there, right? How far could they have come from? And like, what do you think? Native Americans being Israelis. How crazy is that?
It's not that far fetched. I mean, if you read the Strong's Concordance and show all the 12 tribes, and you can mark everything, Ephraim and Manasseh going to North America and all kinds of different, you can see Dan Ubi, the mark of Dan Mark,
Right.
They
it
say that's
goes
the
all, you
Vikings,
can
right?
track it. Huh? Yeah,
They say that's the
towards the
Vikings.
Viking area. If Vikings
Which there are
exist,
Vikings that came this well, exactly, right? But the idea of the Spy Kings and there being the mark of Dan and like they have lions on their shields, right? So we see them in Denmark, but we also see in Minnesota, in Alexandria, Minnesota, where Terry Gilliam is born, is where the Alexandria runestone is, right? And this is like a runestone that people always debated. And they're like, this can't be real. But you look at it and it is real. I'm sorry. Like you've got this stone that's just like we were coming down through, and it's talking about waterways, which as time goes on, because we understand more with LIDAR how feedback systems look, like, oh yeah, the Hudson Bay did actually extend and connect to the Great Lakes of Michigan through these canals, which we no longer have. Probably because of beaver trading, because beavers actually kept these water systems alive, and then all of a sudden they disconnect each other. So this is all really recent stuff too, within the last 1,000 years. Like the Vinland expedition is like what 1,000 AD or something like that, according to our regular calendar. So the interaction between them back and forth, and anything before that, like we're not even really sure, but it sounds like there might have been maybe like 400 years of disconnect at most, because it looks like before that there were other interactions that were happening, right?
I kind of want to just shoot something out there because somebody says Alan Moore has a spider god, very Lovecraftian, and I was thinking of Alan Moore towards the beginning of this conversation when we were looking at that lake and relating it as a swamp, and I was thinking of Swamp Thing, and I know Alan Moore was like very much against the films of Swamp Thing being made. But yeah, so I was just, I don't know, I was like, is there like, because I know Alan Moore always took from like these different mystery schools and older, archetypal stuff. He's like super Thelemite, but I was like just wondering if like, because I don't know if you guys have read Alan Moore's comic Swamp Thing. Beyond just like the movie.
I did not read his Swamp Thing. No, I've read a lot of his other ones.
I mean, Swamp Thing is basically what put him on the map, because he basically turned Swamp Thing into like a mythological beast, and then you can see how like the mythology like took over.
Oh, there is a woman. Holy
there's
crap!
That woman, and she's the like the woman in like Creep Show that's in the portion with the box, It's got this whole like is because I don't remember. I don't know it well enough to speak to it, but I bet you there's freaking something interesting there in regards to like what Swamp Thing's connection is with that woman. Like, is there some kind of like, primordial connection there or something? I don't really know. But yeah.
Gotta ask ChatGPT. Alan Moore's spider goddess thing. What is it?
Spider goddess thing.
I like how it's used to people talking like that too. It's like, yeah, okay, all right, yeah, here we go. I'll just read it because it's too fine print. The Glycon and Glyconian worship. Alan Moore identifies the worshiper of the Roman snake god Glycon, the spider goddess, often referred to in his works and interviews. She is a symbol of the web of life, fate, and the interconnectedness of all things. The deity embodies both the weaver of destinies and the devourer, reflecting the dual nature of creation and destruction inherent in existence, inspiration and influence. The spider goddess concepts draw inspiration from various mythological occult traditions. Spiders are common in mythology. The Greek fates. They don't go deep. In Moore's writing and public talks, the spider goddess often appears as a metaphor for its creative process and philosophical outlook. She represents the intricate and sometimes chaotic nature of the storytelling and creativity.
Weaving spiders. What is it? What is the Bohemian Grove saying? Thomas isn't here.
We've not here, but what is it? What kind of spiders?
We've not here. Spiders, we've not here. Something like that. But I don't know, man. Like, if I look at the $1 bill with the magnifying glass, like the owl, I can't deny the owl. I see the owl, but the spider feels like a stretch to me. Maybe it's there, and I just don't have the eyes for it. But
it seems like
like the little geometric shapes that are.
Is it just spiders we've not here? Without
somebody responded, "Come not here." Spiders come not here. Weaving spiders come not here.
Weaving spiders come not here.
Are implied.
Or coming spiders weave not here. I feel like it's like you don't want them to weave. I don't know, maybe.
I just feel like like when you think about like Einstein's idea of gravity being like this pull, and we've all seen that geometric like funnel shape to how gravity works, right? Like it's more like a bed sheet, and the planets are like masses that pull down the circular area around, and that creates gravity or whatnot. So, but also like I hate to self-promote, but like the show that I did with Frank
physically hurts him.
We were talking, we talked about like
Gravity
Spider-Man
hurts
like that's harsh. So, but what I was saying, the
and Bernie's here in the back. I'm sorry, Bernie. I saw you there. What's up, bro?
So what I was saying was like the idea that Spider-Man has been associated with string theory. Like most of his mythology has grown up to where he's talking about multiverses and stuff of that nature, but it's probably more along the lines of the idea of the spider weaving like destiny.
Spider string theory,
They have to kind of go together. Like,
wasn't it an issue though when in Einstein's field equations, when he's describing what you were just describing about gravity, is that he doesn't include space-time torque, so there's no twist in his representation. It's just like a sheet with like that like comes down and it's like moving,
the weight of the planet is like a tight bread or a bed sheet.
But it's like
graphically it creates like little funnels where the rings, it's like a typographical map where the points that are, tighter together, the lines kind of create almost a spider web.
Right. Totally. Yeah. I don't know if there's like movement in it, like in his explanation of it. Like it feels like it got, maybe I'm no expert on physics, obviously, but from the little bit that I've gathered looking at Einstein's work, it seems like he's kind of like he took care of it up to a point, but it's not really ultimately complete in terms of the twist. There's no twist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've seen that?
I mean, do you consider like is the Kabbalah like a blatant twist?
The Kabbalah includes not just a twist on like one level on its own level, but then it has like a dimensional twist that's above that. So yeah, it's more psychedelic. But Kabbalah is explaining it in a language and in a way that we don't really have it the same way today. So, or where we'll go. Is he still here? He dropped out.
Yeah, he'll be back, I'm sure.
I would see Kabbalah as an interface, kind of like when you see another dimension, but you're not seeing the dimension, you're seeing the shadow of the dimension come down. So it is a way of interfacing with that shadow, even though you're not directly interfacing with the dimension.
Well said on that. It's like the interface into the dark energy / ether of the universe, essentially.
Yeah, you're not ever going to directly see it. You're seeing the shadow of it because you're in your realm, just like they would see you as a shadow,
I feel like there's a thing with that also with the like Hopi tradition, right? Or Lakota, at least I've heard, like there's the Kachina or Kashina spirits, right? Which you only ever see like the effects of. And so there's, like a mystical, like you have ceremonial days that things happen, star roots even of like when things and which things go together, right? So that seems kind of similar to the Kabbalah, like the numerological connection.
Right. Well, there's also like just tying it to what discussing Einstein's equations is it's like you'll see like the most ancient Kabbalah, there's no diagrams. It's all just verbally communicated, or it's written down, and it's up to the person who's interpreting it to come with the visualizations inside of themselves. And then in the Middle Ages, you have these representations coming out, which in my view are very like dualistic. But now it seems like we've gotten to a point with technology where we can actually take a lot of those old visuals that were just being described in words, and we can actually like visually represent them with models in a way that we never used to be able to. So I see that as like a pretty significant leap, that just kind of like we were able to do it with physics, but you could apply it back to what is described Kabbalistically in a way that we were not able to get to in the Middle Ages. Like those are very like, limited in their communication about what they're literally talking about. Like if you're having a tube torus described, it's hard to visually represent that with the materials that were available, say 500, 600, 700 years ago, Andreas, you're muted.
It's probably better that way. So I was noticing there's some loopholes in some of these religious teachings I've been hearing about, talking about like spirit can either be created or destroyed. And so this idea, I like to think of it that there's maybe a uniform singularity that all energy was at one point.
Yeah.
But apparently that's not what everybody thinks. Like some people think it's just all the amount of spirits and intelligences that will ever exist started at the beginning. We're just like infinite potential, but they were separate in some way. Yeah. And I wonder, like, what do you think about that? Because in the Kabbalah, this idea of 613 parts of the soul, like, do you think that things were always that way, or like that they started?
Well, there's the shattering of the vessels described in the other school of Kabbalah, which is like than the one that I generally follow, like that the Ari was more interested in, which is the Ezekiel school, where you have the breaking of the vessels and then bringing the parts back together, which almost like describes like Pangea in a way, if you were to take it completely literal, like in the material world. And but like this is supposed to be something to do with consciousness, so we're fragmented. And I don't know if this is applicable to what you're asking, but like there's this idea of bringing the fragments back together.
Same with Enoch,
but it's not
Enoch's journey and his separation.
Sure, you're saying in the book of Enoch there's something that's relatable there. I'm not sure if I've transcribed the book of Enoch, but it's been a long time.
His pieces, he was broken into several parts or something, and they had to search and reassemble him back together. And that's not directly related to
Are you talking about like Osiris? Are you saying I'm not familiar with that? You're saying with because there's Enoch in the Bible who's described as actually having his own transfiguration, and then there's the book. It's actually, what is it? Haynoch? Because it begins with a hay, something like that. I don't know how you actually.
It's commonly called Enoch, and then
right, but it's a hay, so I don't even know why we call it that.
It is supposed to be one of the most earliest and describes one of the most earliest times. And then there's also like Enoch is mentioned within the Book of Giants as well.
Right.
Which
there's also like the trippy, weird ass like crystal hippie Book of Enoch that's just like totally like a channeled work or something that some people ascribe.
But I don't remember any story. I know Osiris is like dismembered and taken apart, like Braveheart.
Yeah, 14 pieces, right?
Right. But I don't think Enoch is. Enoch rises up, God's like, I like you. You don't have to die. Kind of a thing,
you don't
right?
have to die. Enoch is the guy who basically don't die.
What if he didn't have to die? Like it's cool. Yeah.
But he gets to
if he did, would we be here today?
Yeah, it's not vampiric because he's not staying here. He ascends. That's why I describe it as more of a transfiguration.
Kind of vampiric. It's
no, because he takes him up into the sky. I mean, I don't know.
He's not feeding off other people.
Yeah, but there's one more. There's the Wandering Jew. There's a concept of the Wandering Jew, which is basically
John the Beloved.
No, not John the Baptist, but or not John not the youngest disciple, not John the beloved from the Book of John, but the dang it, you threw me off.
John the Evangelist, John the Apostle.
No, the Wandering Jew, not the Wandering John, is the Wandering Jew.
The Wandering Jew. Different John.
He is like the guy who whips Jesus or something. Like if you look it up, because like Neil Gaiman mentions him also.
Oh, did Neil Gaiman make him up?
No, I don't think so, because he
He may
appeared
have.
in another. He appeared in that Demi Moore movie that was called
That
the
Demi
Seventh
Moore movie. Yeah,
You know,
no, not
Showgirls.
not the
the
Whipper.
Scarlet
It
Letter,
wasn't
Disclosure.
that. It wasn't.
The
No, it's
Seventh
just.
Sign by
It's not
Demi
the.
Moore.
It's not the
There's-
guy who whipped him, because that young whippersnapper was Roman. It had to have been a passerby, just someone standing there watching him, who was
Right, but it has to
abstaining
do with
for the
this. It
Jews.
has to do with this concept of individual that basically is cursed to not die. So they're
Yeah.
called the Wandering Jew.
Yeah.
And it's funny because in
That
Neil
might be
Gaiman,
Jewish,
the comic book writer who wrote Sandman, he actually talks about death giving liberties to one individual who he considers his friend, and they meet every day in like the White Horse Tavern or something. I can't remember. It's been a long time
Mhm.
since I read it or whatever. But anyways, that individual is
they meet
mistaken
every-
as the Wandering Jew.
They meet like every however many years, or every year, or
Like it's
something.
100 years or 40 years. Yeah.
Yes, I
And
think it's 100. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Oh, we got to
But
get a show
anyways-
together with Stephen Baldwin, the guy who said he met John the Beloved, right? Have you heard about that guy? We had him on. He was
Well,
in
first,
prison.
I mean, okay, look, bro, if we're gonna get into John the Beloved, then let's do it. But you got to explain what that means. You got to bring up
You
the
first.
Wikipedia page
No, you
that
do it.
it
No, you
basically
do it. No, you
Jesus
do it.
is beloved. Look up the Jesus is beloved is
All right,
an
I'll do it for you.
individual in the book of John that is only mentioned 6 times. Now, the way that John describes the Jesus is beloved is basically homoerotic. There's scenes where the individual is on Jesus's chest and stuff of that nature. Like it
Right.
describes him as on his bosom.
Okay,
Right.
so now you're gonna do a Mary Magdalene plea? I don't say John the
No,
Beloved
it is
Mary Magdalene.
totally Mary Magdalene. If
He
you
was
want
trans. He was the first trans man.
no,
Okay,
no,
I
it
think-
all has to do with the riddle that's in John 19.
I agree with you. I agree with you to the extent that
It's a
these
riddle.
pictures are definitely not about John the Beloved, but about Mary Magdalene. I agree with you on that level. But the idea that
But
John
it's
the
the
Beloved,
same person. It
are you saying
basically- the
Mary
person-
Magdalene is immortal?
Bro. Okay. So there is no
Bro.
John. Look, there
Mortal.
is no John. If you look at the lineage of John, who is the brother of James,
Wait,
he is the
hold on.
first cousin.
We cut
He's
way
the
ahead.
first cousin of Jesus. He's the
We
first
cut-
cousin.
We got way ahead. Let's start with this first part. John the Beloved's supposed to be walking around right now. That's the point. So, like in the Bible, it says, like, you're going to deny me, Peter, after, by the time the cock crows 3 times, and like you're
Right.
going to die here. I'm telling you when you're going to die. And then he's like, okay,
Right.
well, when's John the Beloved going to die? And he's like, well, what if John the Beloved doesn't die until I get back? What do you
Right.
care if I don't say when John?
Right.
Don't worry, gonna die. Screw you. And so some people take that to mean, especially Mormons, that John the Beloved is alive. And I've met a guy who actually thinks John the Beloved is like reached out to him, like the time traveling John Titor kind of thing. And maybe John Titor is John the Beloved, just thinking that for the first time. Wow. But maybe there is something to this idea that there's a dude walking around the earth.
Look up John 19. I'll show you where all of that.
But you're saying you think Mary Magdalene? You think Mary
No,
Magdalene?
dude,
is
who
walking around?
cares? Mary Magdalene.
Bro,
It doesn't
that
matter
blows
your
my mind.
guess. It doesn't matter what your guess is.
All
I'm
right, John
telling
what?
you where
John
the
what?
root of the riddle is.
John 1:19. What did you want?
No,
What?
John 19. John
19.
19.
All
The
right,
whole
right.
chapter. We'll figure it out.
Well, okay.
Oh,
let's-
shit.
Let's
Is
do
that-
it together.
So it's like
Okay.
Pilate there
Team learning.
Jesus and scourged him. They put the crowns on his head. Go down, go down, go down. So yeah, then Jesus came forth wearing the crown of thorns. This is where they beat him. So you have to go all the way down to where he's on the cross, and it tells you who's at the cross, and it tells you what Jesus says to his beloved. I
QAnon
think it's
reference
like
for you there, number
23,
17.
John 19:23 or something, and they
23.
crucified him right there.
Bro, I like doing that. All right, then the soldiers, when they had crucified Jesus, took his garments and made 4 parts. To every soldier a part, and also his
Oh.
coat.
That's the 4 corners, right?
Okay.
I mean, that's the
all right.
reference to the 4 corners.
Okay.
But you and I talked about the 4 corners on the Planet of the Apes episode.
Yeah,
Go
totally.
down. Okay, so basically what happens is Jesus looks at his beloved and he says, "Mother, this is your son." And he looks, and then there. So there it says, "Now stood by the cross, Jesus, his mother." That's where the riddle is, right here. Now there stood by the cross of Jesus, his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. If you look up his mother's sister, it's Mary also. So they're all named Mary. It's a shell game. It's saying
there's actually 4 different Marys in the gospel.
Right.
And
They're called the 3 Marys, and a bunch of women are included in the 3 Marys. So it's called the 3 Marys. You can look it up on Wikipedia. It's called the 3 Marys, but there's more than 3 Marys. There's like 4 or 5 Marys. So it tells you who's at the cross, and then it sits there and tells you, and it goes, he looks at his beloved, and he tells her, or he tells them. It's using pronouns. See? It says, he tells the beloved right there. And when Jesus therefore saw his mother and the disciple, and it's supposed to be the disciple whom he beloved, or his beloved disciple. That's the disciple they're talking about, because you have to understand that there's no disciples at the cross. At the cross, none of the disciples could be there because they were all being hunted. So it says, by whom he loved, he saith, by the disciple whom he loved, he saith unto his mother, woman, behold thy son. And what he's saying is, like, a man and a woman are the same flesh when they get married. So he's not saying this disciple is that guy right there. He's saying this person is the same as your son. Then saith he to the disciple whom he loved, behold, this is thine mother. He's marrying himself. Do you get what I'm saying? And if you look up all of the descriptions in all the other books of the gospel, who was at the cross, there was no disciple. There was only different individuals named Mary. In every book, it's just a different group of people named Mary, but nobody other than Mary. So when he said, who is the disciple that Jesus loved? The only answer is Mary.
But Mary was his mother, his wife, his cousin, and someone else.
Dude,
And
it was south. It was the south of Israel.
Mary is the same as you, correct?
It's the south of Israel. You gotta understand how it was back then.
You are Mary. I guess that's a good way of interpreting. I mean, like, if Mary is the bride of Christ, and that would make us all Mary, right?
Right. Well, she's also the seed, so she
mom.
seems to be a Shapha reference. But you know that there's a trick you can do. Joseph Atwill has pointed this out. I could take or leave some of the stuff from Caesar's Messiah, but this is a mathematical issue that he presented, which I can't deny, which is that if you take the 4 books in the part where they roll where the stone is moved and Jesus isn't there, and it's like, and then Mary communicates with the angel, they make it a point to let you know in each one of those different books what time of day that happened, like where the sun was, and they're all different times. And so, like, I'm personally convinced from having delved into this many years ago, like, I got to a place where I was like, dude, you mathematically, like, these books were supposed to have been written by different disciples that went in 4 different places, right? Like, these are supposed to, like, have no connection to each other. You can prove that they're actually either written by the same panel of people or the same person. Who knows? It could be Josephus Flavius. That's what was postulated in Caesar's Messiah. But whatever you want to speculate on that, the truth is that, like, with those 4 books, there seems to be this insane, like, comedy that's not like how we generally relate to humor, but it's like some next level humor of, like, a different Mary showing up and having a different interaction in each scenario. So it's like, we're supposed to treat it that these are all just recounting the same event, when really it's letting you know that no, these are actually different events, but the math of it is such that you can basically prove that these people weren't separated when they wrote this. You know?
But wouldn't that just be like Mary showing up with each different witness to support the witness scenario of each, like her interacting with this group, and it's going to be that time of day. Her interacting with the next group, it's going to be that time of day, and it's to support the witness.
Is it the same Mary coming back, or is it a different Mary every time?
I don't know. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like, that's where the humor comes in, where you're like, and Mary showed up, and this is what happened.
I think it's like the obvious thing is, like, he was married to Mary. You know, that we've got
right.
some
It might be
marrying
where the
going on.
whole idea of being married comes from.
Yeah, like I think we get that. The thing that bothers me is when, you know, there's a certain kind of strain of great abominable church there where people will say, hey, like, here's a blood sacrifice, and he was this like virginal guy who like died in essentially like religious battle, right? It's not quite, he like was sacrificed in the trenches of religious battle. And so that's how you, if you want to be like Christ, here's a way to be. Go off to war as early as you can. And you see that like the Crusades and all these periods in time, religion and war.
Christ participate in wars?
Well, so that's also funny because you read the Bible and it says he's coming with a sword. He's coming with a sword.
Does he swing?
No, he says that there's one that will come after me that will come with a sword. He never says that that's himself. This is one of the issues that's the residue of
Either way, there's not stories of him swinging that sword.
I would argue you're both super wrong. Let's start. I don't even. I haven't even gotten into the tax collectors whipping people.
Because he's talking about John the Baptist.
He gets angry at a temple and he whips.
There's one that will baptize with fire. Is that what I'm conflating? Am I taking the baptize by fire and combining it?
That's true too. But hold on. I'm sorry. I didn't mean you were wrong. I just mean that the idea that Christ.
No.
Hold on. Christ comes with a sword. Do not think that I have come here to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. I've come to bring a sword, for I have come to set a man against his father and a daughter against her mother and a daughter-in-law against. Now, to me, this sounds like a neurotic Jewish guy who's really upset at himself because he realizes everything he says is driving people against each other. And he's like, I'm just telling you to love each other, and it's actually making you hate each other. And I think he's actually criticizing himself in this statement.
In a way, he is though, because it's true. Like everybody,
that's also an allegorical sword, not a physical one, and there's no actual stories of him swinging swords and cutting people's heads off, right?
No, you're right, Andreas.
In the prophecies. It's in the prophecies. And the prophecy, but he loses in the prophecies. That's what's so fucked up, is some of the prophecies are incomplete.
Bro comes with a sword, though.
I believe he's not saying that with he's not saying that with intent, though. He's saying this is what I have to do. You're going to turn against your siblings because of this. I agree. I grieve for it, but I'm bringing you that truth, and it's not like I'm gonna turn y'all. Well,
he's talking about a breaking of tradition in certain ways. So like there's the law the way it always had been, and so he's not there to destroy the law, but to fulfill. And basically being very critical as to like why we do the things that we do. What is the purpose and meaning of these rituals? And so he's largely about the application. But you're right, Andreas. I think I was conflating the part where he describes John the Baptist as one who baptized by fire, and there's one who will come after me by water, and then there's one who will come after me that baptizes by fire. And so then when he's in court and he's not speaking for the first part of that. And then when he describes the way the Son of Man will come in the clouds, and the description is like really uncanny in Josephus Flavius's War of the Jews, where he describes Vespasian Caesar or Titus Caesar showing up to sack Jerusalem. And so he's like, it's like the same description or whatever. But there's the thing that gets me is the way that people, when they're reading the Son of Man, are attributing that to like the return of Jesus, when really it's like, you blow out the candle and then it gets relit. But really it's like this is somebody else who he's speaking of. And he also, you have the point that it's relating to before this generation has come to pass. The generation was supposed to be like 40 years. We're supposed to assume that the gospel was written 40 years before Jerusalem was sacked or thereabouts, when there's no way of knowing whether or not this prophetic text was actually written after the events that it's prophesying.
But who's writing this quote? Is this supposed to be John the Baptist saying, I will baptize you with water? Or is this Christ saying, I'll baptize you with water? It's John the Baptist, right? He's saying,
well, I don't know. You're looking at it online and not in the book, so I don't know if it's written in red or not. But yeah.
Dang it. Dang.
This all has to do with heads. Brazen heads, man. Brazen heads.
What do you mean? Like Sarah?
Okay, so I think we're talking about I think this is Morrison. Grant Morrison wrote about brazen heads. John the Baptist being the first. Brazen.
The brazen.
BRA, like the brazen snake or whatever.
Yeah.
Brazen brand. I like brazen.
Brazen brand. I don't know. We're kind of circling around all of these like English esoteric comic book writers. Why not go all the way from Morrison, right?
Right.
He wrote about a brazen head, like the heads being the contact point for technology, like something's put in the head. And so then after the death, you can cut off the head and carry the head around and it will still tell you prophecy.
So I know that Catholics did
Disney.
that. The Native Americans, we have the crystal
Wizard of
skulls.
Oz.
What about Jews? Do the Jews do anything with skulls, or is that just a Catholic and Native thing?
I don't know anything about Jews doing anything with skulls. But...
Tibetans did. Tibetans would line whole
skulls. Do any Jewish practices involve?
Because it has the symbol of where knowledge is. Where is wisdom? Like if it's in your head and then you lose your head, then where are you?
Well, you could have a ram's head and a satyr. These days, people substitute it with cauliflower, though. It's true.
Come on, Google, help me out. I can see Tibetan Buddhism, crystal skulls, South America.
So
crystal skulls, Indiana Jones.
There must be something that we can talk about.
I think this has to do with what we were talking about. But I sent you the Rashomon effect. Is that how you say that?
I forget how you say that, but it's a Japanese movie, right? The Rashomon.
It's a Kurosawa film, but it goes kind of like where every individual in the film is like a witness to a crime, and then they replay the same scene 4 different ways.
His side, her side, and the truth.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
So
that's relatable to what I was saying about those 4 books, right?
Right, exactly. And that's why I brought it up. But I mean, that has to do with like where your source of perspective is, right? Like wherever your head is in a battle, like, but it all has to do with your point of view. I hate to be Obi-Wan about it, but our perspectives are completely reliant on our point of view, and our camera is our head, so to speak, and none of them can be trusted. And that's why there's that many gospels. And it's interesting also, I'd like to point out that you guys were talking about where does Jesus have a sword? Jesus carried 2 swords. It's mentioned multiple times that Jesus, all you have to do is look up where the word sword is in the Bible, and it is mentioned throughout the entire time.
Well, regarding the gospel specifically, in
the gospel, then there's Revelations, because the second seal of Revelations that is supposed to reveal something to you about Christ has 4 horsemen. And those 4 horsemen, as we all know, are 4 different aspects of Christ. So there's one horseman that has a bow, but the second one has a sword.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third one has balances, and the fourth one is hell and death come with him. But the important word there is sword. There's multiple times where Jesus tells his disciples to go out with a sword. But to realize, like all the times, all you have to do is go online, go to your Bible word search software app or whatever, and then just type in the word sword.
Right. And then I'd be interested to know, like if you're talking about the gospel, I'd be interested to know if all those times it's actually the same word in the Greek, because it's one of the common issues when you're transcribing the Bible is that the same English word will show up repeatedly, and you'll have different words that have nuances in
right.
The
well, one Hebrew or Greek word could mean like 3 different English words.
It could mean 30, but yeah.
Yeah, well, Jesus. Yeah, you know better. But I'm just saying, like, it is important to go back to the words.
Right. I dig it. Yeah, no, it's a strange thing to transcribe the Bible, whether Old or New Testament, because in transcribing it, you're going to look at it, 50 every verse, 50, 100 different ways than if you were just, reading the translation. So that's kind of.
Looks like for the most part, let's see here, it's translated as Herev, in Genesis and Exodus is Herev, and then Machara in Greek, in Hebrews, and in Revelation, Romphia.
Right. Where is it show up in the gospel?
So in the gospel, it shows up in
look up the root. Yeah, look up the
in-
Raphia or whatever.
in Ephesians, Hebrews, and Revelation. That's where it shows up in the gospel, and each time it's as Machara and as
the gospel is just Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, bro.
Oh, I would have counted Paul's letters.
No,
it
is not. Revelations is part of the New Testament. If you exclude it from the gospel, then what the fuck are we talking about? It's the
We're
last
talking about that the gospel
Bible
imitates the Torah, just like the Torah is Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy.
Whoa,
five books.
How many different sections of the Bible do you want, bro? There's one, which is the book of the law, which is the Mosaic time. There's two, like the prophecies, which is like what, second temple, I think is what they call it. Then there's the gospel. But if you exclude Revelations, where does it sit? Revelations is the last.
You could say the same thing for 3 Johns, and it's a. I'm just. We could look this up if we want to talk about a technicality.
We still have the book of Daniel.
Oh, it is.
I went through ministerial training, and they never referred to Revelation as part of the gospel.
So that's all right. Well, I can comment on that. So in terms of what is gospel, so gospel is a word that means good news. At one point, anybody talking about Jesus was good news because it was bad times, And at a certain point, they said, Marcion comes along, and Marcion says, if you've been reading some of these old Torah and old Kabbalah and old, the Midrash stuff, there's some stuff in there that doesn't really jive with Jesus. In fact, I think what we need to do is get rid of all of it. Let's get rid of Exodus, Genesis, Moses. We don't need all that. Jesus.
Thomas.
Yeah, all we need is like these 4 books and maybe one that I wrote. But don't worry about that one. I'm just Marcion's a cool guy. And eventually there's a bunch of people that said, oh, there's another thing. Marcion's like, not only should we change this, the reason is, get this, Jesus' God is not the God of the Old Testament, right? Because like if you read the Old Testament, it's this angry God, angry, jealous God, mean God. It's not very similar to this God of love. My Father loves me. This kind of God. It's so different. Either God has changed, which is inconceivable, or humans were wrong, which we cannot talk about. So the best thing to do is just say that it's a different God. So the Marcion is saying that Jesus has a different God than the Old Testament. Yaldabaoth is what the Gnostics call this angry, jealous God. So now you've got a bunch of people that are freaked out because you've got a guy saying that Christianity is a new religion. It's not even just part of like a way to practice Judaism from this rabbi who was killed by a hippie, guy who was killed by Roman. No, this is now a new religion that's like Scientology or Mormonism. It's freaking them out. So
yeah, but it's weird that Scientology, how much does Scientology rely completely upon another religion to graft itself onto in order to establish itself?
Well, you kind of have to in science. It's in the word. Like
science fiction. So it's like he had to use all the science fiction of the past in order.
Science fictionology would actually have been a cool.
Wait. Are you guys saying George Lucas is gospel?
George Lucas is gospel. It's true. A long time ago in the galaxy.
It depends on what you mean by the good news. Like if somebody shows up at my house and they say, "Have you heard the good news lately?" and all they have to tell me is shit about
George Lucas is gospel, but a little bit racist, right? George Lucas is pretty racist.
Says it. This is a tiding of good news. It
says
it.
Have you heard the good news about the locusts that's going to come to everybody wearing the armor breastplates, and the lion heads and shit, and sting you for 7 years? Like I don't know. It's not good news for me.
Know.
So Marcion's Bible bothers people because it's really short, and he's like, these are the only books, these are the canonized Marcion gospel, and everyone's like, get out of here, and they start killing Marcionites, and then they start saying, okay, look, well, if he's gonna do it, we gotta have a canon, so let's get together like 60-70 books, and we'll kill each other for a few hundred years over it until we decide, you know what, if we can't decide, you guys be Protestants. But that's what canonization comes down to.
But doesn't it seem so obvious that, like, if you look at like certain apocrypha, like I think it's the Book of Thomas, it might be one of the other ones where it's like he's like, I think, who is it? Is it John? There's like apocrypha where I think it's John or something, and he's like standing looking at the pit of hell and all the souls being tormented in hell at the end times. And then he asks Jesus, who's next to him, he goes, "What's going to happen to all these souls?" And Jesus just says this like classic thing where he's like, not one of my Father's children won't be brought into, the world that is to come or whatever, the world that's here at that point or whatever. But it's just like, in that description, there's no eternity in hell. Like there's not even that really in the gospel. Like there'll be gnashing of teeth or whatever. But this idea of eternal torment, like that is something that was kind of like perpetuated by the organization that was the church through the Middle Ages and everything. So it's just like, and then like it gets repeated or whatever. But I'm like, dude, it just seems obvious why that wouldn't be included in the canon. Like when they're going through it, they're like, do we want to tell them that like not one soul won't be like this is a
leave that one
temporary
out.
state?
Well, it's
You know?
funny too because you have a new heaven and a new earth at the end, you know, after the tribulation and all that stuff, that same old hell, you know, you guys are going to stay. So you got to ask, you know, when you have a new heaven and a new earth, what souls are going to inhabit that, you know, or is it going to be the same souls that he knew in the first earth age, that he always knew us, or us as children? Is it when the people that are in hell, are they actually the Raphaim, the Elohim, the, you know, whoever, the different types of Lucifer's children and stuff like that? But it's just a question of the separation of if out of hell, if it's not speaking of that, and the souls that failed and went with the fallen angels, if they're going to actually be part of the new cycle, you know, into the new heaven and the new earth.
Right. So, well, we were discussing like Kabbalistically recently the notion that everything is of Ein Sof. But even so, but if you're talking about the Shefa that comes from Keter, you wouldn't ever say that the Sitra Akra or the Klipo, the outside ones, are actually one with the Shefa, the emanated flow, the divine flow. Yet the Ein Sof, everything is of the Ein Sof, including the shells or the husks that are surrounding the holiness. So even in something that you could argue is totally parasitic, is still ultimately of the Ein Sof. It's still of the Godhead, so to speak. You know. So,
it has to be, by definition, anything evil has to be part of the Godhead. But that's what we all get. Like, that's why we all have an issue, right? Because we're like, why is there all this suffering, so forth and so on.
Right. Well, the Shefa is getting restricted throughout the fall. So the perpetual fall that's in motion, that's this interim where you have this divide that exists. This is symbolism of the parting of the waters too. Like that's us. Like that's something that's happening, you know, allegorically with humanity, is that there's this big division that occurs within us, and then the fall gets, as the fall continues, the emanated flow gets more and more and more restricted until it reaches a certain breaking point, and then it just kind of like bursts forth, you know. And that burst is actually like the next leap in whatever we're going to exist as, because humanity as we know ourselves is not entirely evolved. I think there's indicators of that. So there's also like the idea, the rationalization for what you were just describing is that we're all kind of like having a troubleshooting taking place. It's not so much of an intellectual thing as it is like something to do with the primordial nature of the organism itself, that you develop eyes out of a primordial desire to see with all your senses, etc. That whatever it is that needs to be developed, we need to develop that out of that primordial desire, which means making all these mistakes. We miss the mark to allow the organism to understand the ways in which we lack like development, like the ways we're not developmentally like, you know, what we could be.
Have you ever heard of Do Easy, David?
Do Easy? I don't know.
Do Easy by William S. Burroughs, and it's a filmmaker.
Dude, I don't know. Oh, what do you got? I don't know, man. I've read like 8 books by William S. Burroughs, and I could tell you that the only reason I think I've read that much is because the first book that I read from him was so good, which was The Western Lands, and I kept on like trying to get that hit again. I was like trying to find it, and I was like, I guess that's it. Like that was it. Like he just did that book, and it was so good, and then I was looking for it again, and I don't know how much anality I had to read about before I realized like, oh, I'm not actually finding that anymore. And not, you know, I'm not
here. I found it. Gus Van Sant. It's not Cameron Crowe. It's Gus Van Sant. You know who that is, right?
Yeah, of course. He did Elephant and Jerry and a bunch of stuff. Yeah, good director.
Yeah. So basically, it's this idea is to do things as relaxed as possible. So if you go up and you like or walking down the street and you go for a doorknob and you flub the doorknob, then you stop, back up, and do the exact same thing over again until you can do it perfectly. And it's considered to be like a type of magic where you kind of like muscle memory yourself into being in this like weird constant flow state.
Well, that's very Zen. I mean, that's the way Zen is often described because,
Right.
the idea of life with nothing added, you're just that present that every action that you're doing is with so much awareness and intention. I'm not in that state, but I can
Right. Or without error. Like every time you make an error, you restart it and you try again until you get to this point where you're no longer making errors.
Right. Well, the idea too is that would ultimately be a natural state for us. But at any point we could be that. But for all of humanity collectively for this to just be how we are, like what that's going to take is something else because of our general orientation on a collective. So like people are generally like Kabbalistically, you'd say we're oriented towards the left, which is further and further compartmentalization, but it doesn't have to be that way. Like that's why enlightenment is a thing and not something that's just only for the world that is to come,
Yeah, there it is. There's like a whole film they did though, because Gus Van Zandt is like a filmmaker. And it's basically, it just sits there and it's like the guy will trip over the chair and then he'll back up and go back over the chair and then he'll do it over and over. But it's the same thing that like an individual who is like skateboarding will do. You get what I'm saying?
Like after Brian Geisen died?
I have no idea, bro. You need to look into, because I figured that this might be a thing that you've done before. You know what I mean?
No, I'm not familiar with this. I'll look into it. Is this all it is? It's just a 9-minute video, or is there more?
No, I think that's all it is. But they make mention about magic and everything else in it, and I assume that it is sort of like magic. Like if you had a ritual, you would do it over and over until you didn't make any mistakes.
Yeah. Do you know that film that was a historical history? It's like an old silent film on witchcraft, but William S. Burroughs did one of the versions where he narrates it. Oh, you got it. Yeah. What is it called?
Hexen.
Yeah, Hexen. I think that's it. Yeah, the Swedish one. Yeah, that's
Hexen.
However you pronounce it, that shit's crazy.
Danish.
And,
okay.
Yeah, I recommend this movie, especially the version where it's William S. Burroughs telling you it.
Where is this made? It is Swedish. Okay, yeah. Cool. Yeah, this movie was great. Actually, it's pretty cool. I think it's public domain as it can be, right? Because it's like 1920.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything more public domain than that movie because no one even wants to take credit for it.
Right. Yeah, this movie is wild. Honestly, it's it's like a tutorial. It's like amazing because if you think about it, this is like the first one of the first educational films, and it's all about some of the most important esoteric, historical, mythological everything. Right. Look at this: the flat Earth, the shoal, the Hebrew model with the firmament and the the stars, stationary stars.
Yeah.
Geocentric. Yeah. It's pretty wild, man. This is a great film. It talks about witchcraft and everything. Everyone needs to have seen this, right? It's 100 years old. So
this is wild.
Yeah, 100 years old. Definitely like Metropolis, Intolerable, and then Haxan are like the three you got to see. If
I'm
you're watching.
Surprised that like when people are doing that thing where they just pick people to be like you've been selected to be exposed, that like William S. Burroughs isn't like up there with like people that they would call an assassin, because he called himself an assassin so many times in different ways. The exterminator, that he was actually somebody that took people out. I don't really know. I'm just surprised he doesn't get accused of that more.
Yeah, I mean, what's that movie that it's kind of like Confessions of a Dangerous Mind? Like he's the more you talk about it, the more they're like, that can't be true, right? And like I think it's
but that one's weird because it's his autobiography. That guy, like he's saying that about himself, that when he did the dating game, that it was a cover for him to take out political people and stuff. It's nuts. But yeah.
Makara and Rumpia, I found those real quick. So here is the Thracian close combat bladed weapon used in the Book of Revelation. Here is the gospel. It's always talking about the Makara, the knife and tool, like double bladed weapon. So they're kind of specific to
Machete.
that. There might be like some like Kabbalistic reason though that you would use a certain word instead of another word for a sword. So I find it interesting that they use one word in the Old Testament, new words, like it's a new kind of weapon, maybe. So they're specific to like this is a Greek sword. Bernie, you got thoughts?
Just absorbing it. Not really my strong suit in these matters, but liking the discussion. Lots of knowledge.
Dude, Rockadoodle. Yes, Rockadoodle. Forgot about that.
I was just thinking the word suit when you just said the word suit. Just because there's the suits of the tarot. There's like the swords. The swords are related to intellect. Like these are like the four worlds. There's these sheaths, right? So you have like the fire of the wands is like the most primordial, and then you have the swords or the intellect. The hearts are your emotion, and then the earth or the discs. The discs are earth, like they're the most dense. So they're levels of density from etheric to gross. So like when we're talking about like that verse of isn't it right there where he says I'm not come to destroy the law but to fulfill, when he says the sword comment about dividing families,
Yeah.
Basically Jesus was into tarot. Yeah.
Tarot and Torah, yeah. The third movie, whoever asked, it is Intolerance. I said watch Metropolis, watch Haxan, and the 1916 film Intolerance, which I have actually on my channel with Akira the Dawn.
Wow.
I did this years ago. 1916 Intolerance, Exertus. Is that going to work? If I look for it, will I find it? Videos, search Intolerance. Does that even exist anymore? Yeah, it's still up there. So Akira the Dawn, Intolerance, are they both? What's the difference? I don't know. Same length. If you enjoy Intolerance, this is like my version of it, and it has some cool music with Jordan Peterson wave and stuff like that. It's
that you made, or what? What do you mean?
So I like added music from Akira the Dawn. Akira Dawn does he's like a DJ who does Jordan Peterson wave and thought wave. So
I'm not familiar.
It's kind of similar to your work, right? This is a cool one. He made a DJ'd song.
Yeah, I would agree.
Using the My Dinner with Andre.
But did you leave the volume up on the film?
Somewhat, yes. You can hear them talking.
You have to.
Yeah.
Because I've thought about that before. I was like, that's one of those movies that I can't imagine doing a sync film with unless you had the volume up. Because what the hell?
Yeah, I don't want to get copyright because I haven't asked him for this one. Whereas the other one I have total copyright permission, which is sweet. But he's got
Andreas, I have to apologize for the copyright strike that you incurred the other day.
That was adorable. I thought, don't worry, you were trying so hard. You like turned the camera to show
I'm experimenting.
You're doing your best. I don't know. That's what you can do. The problem is it's just not enough. You have to just do it.
It's never enough.
Ask AI to do a picture of it with Legos dramatizing it. You know what I mean? Like that's how you do it.
How many of you guys have heard of this before?
The
paradox of tolerance.
I don't know.
States that if the society's practice of tolerance is inclusive of the intolerant, intolerance will dominate.
Sounds like wokeism and today's society, no?
That sounds like a paradox that'd fix itself eventually. I mean, it may be a paradox for a little bit, but if they actually truly dominated, then eventually everybody'd be tolerant because they'd all be the same again.
Right?
Everyone's just going to keep fucking everybody till we're all the same color, right?
So
it's a bull. Yeah.
Wow, this is what AI thinks that The Shining would look like if it was directed with Legos, starring Legos.
This is it being filmed. They're all behind the scenes. Oh, because there's. But wait,
that needs to be made.
There we go.
That needs to happen now. Could you imagine? That would be so amazing, bro.
Wow,
how do they and everything? Oh my god, it would be so good. Like the Legos would look perfect.
You see, I'm thinking. Yeah, Bernie gets it. We're gonna figure out how to break through the censors.
Do I have to point out the Toy Story connection again? Is that okay?
Is there a
Oh,
Toy Story
yes,
Shining
please.
connection? I feel like you.
The Toy Story is The Shining. So like, and
Yeah.
they make it clear in a variety of ways, but like, it's not just like there's clues like people will pick up on, like they'll notice that the carpet pattern appears in the first Toy Story, and then 237 will show up repeatedly
10 times? 10 times they reference The Shining? Oh, God. Okay.
Right. So
the carpet.
Right. But the thing is that what happens in this scene where it shows you that carpet, it's where the astronaut realizes that he's not real. And so there's the idea of Kubrick filming the lunar landing, even if
it's not just The Shining. Like even Buzz Lightyear's whole moniker is to infinity and beyond,
Jupiter and beyond the infinite. Exactly.
Yeah, beyond.
And so, but it goes beyond this because the entire basis for it. So if you look at, there's a Kubrick quote. If you type in Kubrick the uncanny, and you can find it pretty easily, because he when asked to kind of like explain like what his interest was in in the genre of horror, he talked about like the qualifications for what it is that he's doing. If you can find, maybe type in quote, if it doesn't, does it come up right here? It's just they're talking about, okay, so is it here? I don't know if it's here, but yeah, there's a great quote where he just basically says outright that like his main inspiration for his take on horror has to do with Freud's notion of in his book The Uncanny, which is really like relates that if you look at that book, it's largely about like, what is it that's so fucking terrifying about something that's inanimate becoming animate? So it's like, it's also speaking to the AI thing, right? So this is like our first real feature length computer animated film beyond like The Mind's Eye or, all these other kinds of things, but like that has a real story, And so in that book, it describes like if a little girl was playing with her doll and the doll's head turned and like showed some sign that it actually had a soul in some way or was animated, why that would be like the most terrifying thing, So
Kubrick
it's like
wrote, Freud said the uncanny is the only feeling which is more powerful experienced in art than in life. If horror required any justification, I should think this alone would serve as its credentials.
Right, there it is. That's the quote I was looking for. And so yeah, so basically the Toy Story is a movie like that's taking Freud's notion of the uncanny and actually delivering it while at the same time referencing back
the
to
long
Kubrick
and windy
and
road. Brutal. They don't stop with the Kubrick Shining references, do they? This is Toy Story 4, so it's like all of Toy Story is.
It does all of it because it started in as the concept in the first place for what it was that they were doing, and so yeah, and then there's the thing too where there's the REM album with "If You Believe They Put a Man on the Moon," the Andy Kaufman song. So like so that's a pairing that I have on the website. So it actually that song only plays one time in the film if you like play it and loop it because of the length of the album versus the length of the movie, and it happens to play when they're at the
number 237.
Yeah,
number 237. They did everything.
Yeah, it's all over the place. Yeah. And so like it's when they go in the rocket ship
to the dark fortress
when Buzz Lightyear ends up in the fake rocket. So he's in a fake rocket and he's finding out that he's fake when you're looking at the pattern and all that. It's so over the top. But yeah. What is that? Automatic for the People? Is that what that album's called? The REM album that has the Man on the Moon. And so yeah, it's totally
Automatic for the People. So it's the AK-47 album, or are they talking about the Armalite? I can't even tell which gun is that.
I don't know, but it's a crazy sync. Yeah,
dude, that's pretty wild. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's cool because it's not just about The Shining. Then it's like literally about Kubrick and the moon landing and all of it at once.
There's a phonetic connection too because it's Andy is the kid who has Woody and Buzz Lightyear, and so he writes like Andy on the toys. And there's this whole thing about like Andy Kaufman when he was a kid in the attic and like doing all these like playing out all his shit with his toys. Like he was like playing with toys in the attic. That's like into like a age that you're not really supposed to be doing that anymore. You know what I mean? But he's like. Because it's really into
all work and no play make Jack a dull boy, David.
Right, which also could be like a Playboy thing. So like
that's all that Nicholson needed was a couple of Legos up there in the overlook.
Jack Nicholson had a direct tunnel from his home to the Playboy Mansion. As a matter of fact, the house where Polanski had Polanski raped Samantha Geimer in the hot tub at Jack Nicholson's home that had an underground tunnel to the Playboy Mansion. I'm surprised more people don't reference that connection there. And also, that's the thing, it's all work and no play make Jack a dull boy. If you look at the beginning of that movie when he's waiting for the interview in The Shining, he's reading Playgirl magazine. The main headline in that magazine, the main article is "Why do parents molest their children?" So there's crazy levels here. Yeah,
disgusting.
Yeah, it's true though.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it, but just
after our last Think Tank, I went and watched The Monkey's Head because I hadn't seen Head in a few years, and I was like, it's amazing because it's on YouTube, like for free in relatively high quality, so it's like worth watching. And I'm just reminded, like when I watch this movie, that every time I think of it, I'm like, it's a little bit better than I remember it. I mean, I guess the first time I saw it, I was a kid, so I was thinking, wow, this isn't like the Monkey Show, just like what everyone was supposed to think. But now I realize like how much that's important to what they were trying to do, right? Because these guys wanted to be taken seriously. Their producers wanted to destroy them. It's a perfect medley.
So that's part right there that you were just showing. That was their playing Porpoise song, and this whole scene is a play on the of Jupiter and Beyond the Infinite in 2001: A Space Odyssey. And at the end of this movie, they combine sets. They have the set from Rosemary's Baby, and they put a white monolith in there. In fact, I think there might be 3 white monoliths towards the end. But yeah,
and then there's this scene, like, so there's the other thing is like so apparently when they were making the movie, they started out, Jack Nicholson's writing this movie, by the way. So the Monkeys movie is written by Jack Nicholson along with the producer, and they're on cocaine. And he says they're on those little things they got from Timothy Leary, which is not just LSD. Let's be honest. There's all kinds of weird stuff that he had access to. And they're saying, we got to make this like the monkeys have to end up in the darkest place possible. What is the darkest place in the universe? And they're like, this particular celebrity's hair. Like, that's it. They're going to be lice in his hair and they're going to get vacuumed out. And like, that's the beginning of the movie. And the more you see it, you're like, this is a Jodorowsky Warhol art film. This is the deepest movie. And they're saying things in commentary. Like there's at the beginning of the movie, like, all right, we'll do like a Bonanza MASH thing because we're not allowed to talk about the fact that we're in Vietnam. We're not allowed to have opinions on politics or philosophy. We're supposed to just make movies about how funny it is to be at war. So let's make a movie where Mickey can't figure out that he needs to wear a helmet because he's going to get shot while people are taking photos for Time magazine. It's like, oh my God, this is uncomfortable. It's amazing.
It's head, or as I like to call it, Honey, I Shrunk the Yes Men.
Hey, Will, were you on that that call? That it's on YouTube. We have all of Head up on YouTube with an old where we did.
I've listened to it. I think I've listened to it multiple times, but that was like I always record with you and Klaus
and Mark Leclerc was there.
So here's what I don't think people. Here's what I think people don't talk about, and maybe you guys did, but I feel like this is missed. Is like at the beginning of the movie, right? Is the war scene like they do? Like, give me a war, give me a W, give me an A, give me an R, war. And they go off to war, and Mickey says he's not going to wear a helmet, and why should he wear a helmet? And they're all like, because you could get shot, right? And then the rest of the movie's an acid trip, and it's called Head,
right?
Yes. So it's like Jacob's ladder.
Isn't the point that he gets shot in the head at the beginning of the movie, right? And so this is more than just an acid trip. This is like a death sequence. Like this is like waking life, essentially.
Yeah.
Right. There's also
Jacob's ladder where at the end of it, he's still on the fucking bed. Go ahead.
Right. Or Hot Tub Time Machine. You know, and Hot Tub Time Machine is super deep and it's all about The Shining, and they make that clear. So they say they give like when they show up to that building at the beginning, they reference The Shining directly, saying like, "Am I what are you gonna work on your book and it's gonna get snowed in here or whatever?" What do they say? They make a specific acknowledgement that that's what's happening. In the Hot Tub Time Machine, the guy Lou, who's the bald guy there, his back is turned, like that guy dies. He kills himself at the beginning in his garage with the exhaust. And as far as I'm concerned, like there's all these clues to it, but the whole rest of that movie is like his death trip. And you could there's even indication of it in the sequel too, that it just continues. But yeah, that basically he's because the idea with The Shining is that he's dead, but he's playing out his karma is to like play out like not just like you know.
Oh, so the bathtub in 237 is the hot tub. That's jacked up.
Yeah. I'm totally. There's so and then there's the thing with the squirrels. So like if you watch that movie, every time what's that?
How else would you get Lugal from being at the bottom of your life to controlling Lugal, right? You're bang on with that.
Word. Yeah. No, it gets deep. And then they even have the Shining Bear is there in the hot tub with them. So like in both movies too. Like if they show you all those really rapid clips and you got Chevy Chase or whatever, and they show you the person in the bear outfit, you know the bear who's like going down on the guy in The Shining. You know what I'm talking about? Where he like lifts his head and he looks at him and he looks like somebody.
That's amazing. That's like the scene that's actually in the book from The Shining, where the guy's giving head. It's in the book.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the only reason you would understand what that scene means. Oh man, that is amazing, bro.
Right.
This is like Kanye West,
dude. We
telling on P. Diddy.
We did the sink cabin, and we had one of the sink cabins. It was Michael Sherratt. Is that how you say his name? I forget.
Shot. Michael
Shot. I met him a few times, but he was like the whole time. He's like, "We got to watch Hot Tub Time Machine." Just like he was like, "You as sink heads, like if we put this on, like I feel like we're gonna unravel the secrets of the universe or whatever." He's very enthusiastic about it, and we never got around to watching it. And so like ever since then, I've been like, yeah, I think I'm missing something there. I have to look into that further. And like, I'm not even doing it half justice. Like the Russia shit in that movie to do with the Russian bear and how it relates with Kubrick and all this stuff. It's super crazy. Yeah. So there's also the squirrel thing. So like right when he kills himself, like the next scene is like cuts to John Cusack, JC, watching the television set and seeing the squirrels, and then the squirrels show up in the movie in different scenarios. Like, and at one point, Lou even says, "I know that squirrel. That's a magic squirrel." And then it's like when he loses the game, and he has to get the other guy has to go down on him because he lost the bet that was a play on Indecent Proposal or whatever. Yeah, it was crazy. I don't know what the symbolism of a squirrel is, though. I don't know if it's as deep as
I haven't figured that one out either.
Is there any Hopi symbols for squirrels, Tossie? Do you know?
No, I mean, I don't think
that
so.
would if there was actually a Native American thing, it would be reasonable because The Shining was built on Indian burial ground. On the way up, they're like Great White Buffalo, or whatever.
Actually, I got a weirder one, and this will be
The Shining. I'm sorry, I wanted to say it. The Shining. If you take The Shining movie as itself, as its sole thing, it's a certain context to it. But to really understand The Shining, you want to go into like Robert R. McCannon and like his books. It also ties into The Dark Tower, but it's under his subname that not his subname. He co-wrote with Robert R. McCannon with Travel and Jack, and the stories about him going across America through like warp space, and he ends up at the hotel that was a Shining, but what it really is a different dimension that he gets into. So it's not that he's dead and that he's reliving necessarily, it's that he's actually in a different dimension. And that's even his latest movie, the one where they have like the low men and the vampires, where they, like the lady. Where she's kidnapped and chains those people. They end up, and he traps them and brings them to that place, and that's where Jack comes out again.
So you're talking about the Gunslinger series, like explicitly.
And you have
there's a different series other than that too. I can't remember the name of it. If you look up Robert R. McCann, and there's a certain series of books.
R. McCann.
Right. So there's very few there's very few places where the movie is actually corresponds to the book. The bear thing is one of them, but he did his own thing with it completely. So you almost have to relate to it on its own terms. You know what I mean?
Swan Song. That's it. Right there. Swan Song. That's all about The Shining, right?
Trippy.
That's the hotel. And that's also the place that they reference in the latest movie that Stephen King put out.
So when was this book published?
Where they appear there.
Was this book published before The Shining?
Early 90s.
After? Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, I'm like
After.
there's different tracks for me.
But
Like
he's
I
connected
can't,
all
yeah.
his stories.
Right. But like that this is of all the movies that Stephen King has put down that were adaptations of his books, the only one that he really insults is The Shining. He leaves Langoliers alone and all the made for TV stuff or whatever. And like,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like I watched like that miniseries type thing that they did with that guy from Wings, like the technically accurate version of The Shining that they released, the made for TV thing. And I can't take it, man. Like I read that book when I was young, and it was just like it's not the same thing, because it pisses
hard.
Stephen King off, because he's like, you took what I was relating to, which is more like kind of like the Hulk with alcoholism. This is my like, oh, I had an alcohol problem, and that really inspired me to write this kind of, it's just and the freaking like plant animals coming to life, like the hedges coming to life and shit. But what's really crazy is that that in the end of the book, the Overlook burns down, and in the movie, like during the making of the movie, the Overlook actually burned down in real life. Like there was a fire, it was bad, and like you can actually find a crazy picture of Kubrick like laughing in front of the wreckage of that fire. It's so weird.
Dude, that reminds me.
Sounds like a ritual of some sorts.
It's strange, and that they use salt instead of snow. It's the only movie in all of history that they ever did that with.
Okay,
yeah, and everyone was like, their
sacrifice in that
skin
fire.
was fucking burning and shit. Well, it sounds like alchemical, right? You have sulfur, salt, and
Big
mercury.
time.
But yeah, it's like, why did he want to do that? Why did he have to do that? Like, it's a crazy choice. How much salt did he need?
Have you ever heard of the Ratatosker, I think it's called. Ratatosker. Yeah, Ratatosker. Okay. Drill tooth. It's a Norse mythology thing. It's a squirrel. Runs up and down the world tree, the Yggdrasil.
I'm immediately convinced that this is what they're referencing.
Yeah,
immediately.
Like the Ice Age movies. There's that same squirrel going.
Immediately convinced as well.
Sweet.
Which might say more about me and you than the squirrel, but at the end of the day, I think they're like, realistically, that's probably what it is, right?
Is that a unicorn squirrel?
There's also some lore that I wanted to bring up. It isn't from the Bible and isn't from any ancient mythology, but it's actually from Tim Sweeney's Epic Games Fortnite, and I think that relates to this in a weird way as well. I didn't know that Fortnite had so much deep lore, you know what I mean? But there's like a lot of like really crazy. So basically the deal with Fortnite is, because what it is like kids playing a battle royale game where they kill each other 100 times a minute until they die, and then you start it over again forever. Why is that happening? Well, their idea is that the universe is in this creation flux, because at the center of the universe is this 0-point energy, which some sort of space-time foundation, which it seems like Marvel and Disney and all the people that have bought into making Fortnite branded stuff have been stealing for like Loki and all of their, Guardians of the Galaxy stuff. Like it's all like deeply and tied into like the actual core point of Fortnite, which is a battle royale, kind of like Casino Royale thing, where you're trapped in this dimension that they're pulling people and places and things from all over every part of the multiverse, right? String theory. Right. Everything else, and they're forcing each other to kill each other, like in Tron, right? To defeat each other for their amusement, and also to like evolve.
Ready Player One.
There's something pretty crazy about that whole idea, the 0-point energy and the foundation, and like the only people who know that, by the way, are like 6. Nobody no one who can drive knows what Fortnite's about. Like that's crazy. That's crazy to have that much power. Yeah.
So there's got to be an actual dimension of Fortnite within the multiverse then. Like, is that our underlying reality?
Well, I don't know how much you know about what they're doing, but they're making $6 billion a year. So they have the connections to Disney and to Warner Brothers, which, everything. They licensed the universes that you're familiar with. So Star Wars is in Lego Fortnite, and you can meet Chewbacca and have his skin, and this is like where it's at, is that their universes, there's the whole point of their lore is they're pulling in people, places, and things, nouns from other realities. So they can be like, oh, and now we have the Avatar The Last Airbender reality got pulled into our reality for a little while. You can buy a skin and that'll support our ability to license these other reality. But what they're doing, dude, they're defeating copyright law in a lot of ways, because this is going to very quickly change and fair use the way things are going to work. It's really fascinating. And that it's built around this crazy deep metaphysical lore that is, you know, what is the point of it? Like, that's not even, there's more to it. There's the foundation is fighting against other people. That banana is the girlfriend in my imagination, but there's really a male banana called Peely. Okay. And Peely's a secret agent banana that's like a multi-diverse banana that's like working to realign the timeline. I don't know. That just seems like there's a lot more going on there. Don't laugh at me, Meta Egg. I see what you're doing. You want to play Fortnite with me.
What about the skin of a banana? Does it have to be a Wookiee?
See, that's the thing, right? Because you can have you can get Peely, but right now there's this weird thing going on.
Children wanting to skin that banana. My God,
dude, that's the thing. It's not naked because it's wearing a skin.
Oh my God!
Look, the point is, I don't even know what the point is. Right now, though, Peely's missing from their story. So, like, he's a secret agent doing something, and that's like some big, like, all the kids know. There's posters, like, every once in a while you'll see that. Have you seen this banana? Where's Peely? Something's happening. But yeah, the foundation being the evil, like, come on, Isaac Asimov's foundation.
Right. Well, okay. So I just want to speak back to the movie The Shining, which is distinct from the book, obviously. Like, that's supposedly what the symbolism is of that beetle that gets crushed, the red beetle, when Scatman Crothers is going along on his way to the hotel. But that Kubrick, there's a recording of Kubrick talking to a journalist where he explains the end of The Shining, because the guy asks him straight up, like, what's the deal with the picture? And the actual quote is evil reincarnation cycle. And so he's stuck in an evil reincarnation cycle. And so, and it reminds me a lot of like the Tibetan Book of the Dead, of like the Bardos. Like, he's in like he's in some crazy Bardo that just keeps moving forward, and he always has to be the caretaker. You know, he's always stuck in that. One thing I want to mention, just because I know that it'll bother me later because I missed one extra point of one that I can think of. I probably got 30 more, but in regards to Toy Story and The Shining, is that and REM, Automatic for the People, is that if you look at the music video for Man on the Moon, because even first place, like, if you believe they put a man on the moon, Buzz Lightyear isn't a real astronaut, and he has the cognitive dissonance and has to come to terms with that. Kubrick, in all likelihood, filming the footage of us landing on the moon, whether we went to the moon or not, I believe that footage was fake. And if it was, Kubrick would have been the most likely candidate to be responsible for that. And so there's that whole argument. But if you watch the music video for Man on the Moon, it goes back and forth. Is it Michael Stipe? That's the singer, right? It goes back and forth between him being an astronaut and him, or looking at an astronaut, because it's Man on the Moon, and a cowboy. So he's dressed up as a cowboy. And so you have Woody in Toy Story, and you have Buzz Lightyear, and they're like characters in the music video for Man on the Moon. It's so bizarre.
Wow.
I have to just also dump in this fact with Hot Tub Time Machine and it being a death dream, that it makes perfect sense in that at the end it's like Lou turns out to be the father, as well as marrying his best friend's sister. So but what more of a death dream could you have?
I don't know what this is, but I'm trademarking it right now. This is mine. I don't know. This is a thing that exists.
The Banana Royale.
What is happening?
Dude, it's getting more and more. This is actually, this scene has to happen. In the middle of history, and all of a sudden he turns around and Jack's there, like, no.
Little piggies, let me in.
That's either Jack or The Office gone psycho. It keeps screaming to me the Office series, that guy, like the Lego of Steve or whatever.
I do see that too. I do see it. There's something there.
Yeah. Mark David Chapman had other targets. Among those targets was also Johnny Carson. The most famous line in The Shining is "Here's Johnny," in that scene that we were just looking at. And so he referenced Catcher in the Rye as his rationale for killing John Lennon, right? And so it's pretty weird because, like, So like Rise was written on the walls in the Tate home, and the explanation for that in blood. And the explanation for that was because they heard it from John in Revolution #9. They heard him say rise. Turns out he didn't actually say rise. He said rye. And so years later, he was killed over Catcher in the Rye. It's so freaking weird. I could go on, but
Dude, I got a big hot super chat from Be Hard, man. This is awesome. I love you guys. You are like the voices inside my head. Thank you, man. That's solid.
We are your inside out. We are at the control booth inside of your head.
We are the monkeys and hamsters spinning the wheel inside.
Not controlling all that you see in here.
Definitely not. No. Maybe sometimes. What do you think about well, anything else you want to cover? We're at like the 2-hour mark. I could play a song for him. That might be the thing to do. You guys want to say something else first?
I don't know. I have a show coming up with David that deals with exactly what he was just talking about right there.
Okay. When's that happening? Is that tomorrow night?
You guys in the chat room. I can send it to a Facebook Messenger.
Is it tomorrow night? Or when is it?
Yes, but I have the thumbnail, and the thumbnail is really damn cool because I wanted to send it to you. But it has to do with what I guess we will call Rosemary's White Album, right, David?
Dude,
sure. Yeah.
I want to make a rap album called Rosemary Baby Mama. I think that's going to be.
Here, I think.
Yeah, somebody says rye makes LSD, and yeah, that's the thing is that ergot comes from rye, a mold from rye bread, and yeah, so the little boy lives in the back of his throat, Tony. It's interesting that what we refer to ergot poisoning is St. Anthony's fire. So like what supposedly happened at Salem and various places where
I got a question. Like customarily you super chat questions, but if you want a question, scream it like that. I guess I'll give it a shot.
I got a question, all capitals. What's the question?
Yeah, bro.
Is that the question?
That's cool. He's just excited that he has one. I think that's probably it. Okay, I gotta check my Facebook to grab that image from MetaEgg. And also, just like, because I thought this was cool too, Rad Dad of 4 has become a YouTube member, and we love you, Rad Dad. You're one of my favorites, so I'm glad you're hanging around. Make sure you stop by the members only section. There's a couple weird videos, there's a few weird videos in there that are probably worth checking out. Here we go. Will sent the photo here. Oh, this is nice. This is tasteful. Okay, hold on a second. Look at this. Look at this. It looks like an Einsoff is like giving a speech as a vinyl record in front of the baby.
That's dope. I like that.
Yeah.
That's
sweet.
David Plate's White Album played with Rosemary's Baby.
You were right to share this picture.
It's not my White Album. It's the Beatles' White Album. I wish I could take credit for that.
I want to be doing this though. Like, let's be doing more of these. Like, we should do some swap casting things. I want to do. How do I stop that? Make it go away. There's a button there. I want to do, reviews of David's sync films. Will has taken the initiative to actually get that started. So yeah, hopefully you guys will all go over and check out Will's channel. But also, I want to get involved with that. I'll steal some of your glory. Let's do some more of those as well. I don't think we could do a sync review without Will. I think that's kind of how that ought to be anyway. So I'm glad that you're
there's history here because Will had 42 minutes and I had always record. I was with Alan and Bill Klaus, Alan Green and Bill Klaus, and he was with Doug Bowles. And so Will has always felt to me to be the equivalent on that show of what I am for Always Record, and Doug has always felt like the equivalent of what
it's like
Alan
if Chris Knowles wasn't a dick,
Bill is just this other wild card variable, Bill is just his own expression. But yeah, it's like we're very complementary in that way. 42 minutes was always very structured. It is 42 minutes, whereas Always Record went on as long as it needed to, and was more of like a think tank, kind of like what this is. But cool.
But I want you all to check out these people's work. I want you, like, when we talk about the sync book, there's a lot of modeling that goes on here. There's like a family tree. So like, get into the sync book and check out 42-minute recordings, because there's a lot of really good episodes about really like key, interesting things. And you'll be surprised like how much you'll be ahead of the world if you listen to 42 minutes. It's just that's an obvious thing to do with your life. Also, Always Record. Bill does some amazing stuff. It's been a minute, and so if you want to hear some stuff from like 2012, it's really timeless. It's timeless, though. I'm not kidding. Like this stuff is stuff that it's today. You'll still be the first one to know about it. Stuff. So yeah, it's true. It is what it is. But it's true.
Yeah.
Bernie's got some stuff to share. What's this?
I'm about to do an episode on some advanced ancient lost artifacts and the showing Teos Cave there where the Crespi collection supposedly came from. I'm going to be covering that, as well as a bunch of artifacts that seem to depict a lot of Egyptian and Sumerian style influences in the Mayan and Olmec cultures.
Oh, John Stubb says, what would Oppenheimer say is the question. He would say, read your Upanishads and your Gita, probably, right?
Or he would just say, I am become death, the destroyer of worlds, right? So,
I feel like he doesn't just go up to people and introduce himself like that. They're like, who are you? I have become death, the destroyer of worlds. Good to meet you. I don't think that's how that works. Like, for the most part.
It depends on the mood, right? If you're like depressed or angry, absolutely it is.
That's a good icebreaker at any party.
The time,
if you're
trying to hit on a girl, not so much.
No, I was about to say, actually, except for that, if you're in college and she's a freshman and you're trying to hit on a girl and you say I am the death, the destroyer of worlds, it's probably not a bad play. I'm just gonna say. Okay,
always want to see. I want to see Oppenheimer in like a meme where he's like Dr. Manhattan sitting on the moon, where he's like, I am no longer interested in their petty narratives. I have become death.
Yeah, but the thing is, it depends on the crowd. It depends on where you're at. If you're like at Alpha Pi sorority, they're just going to give you that fluoride stare. You know what I'm saying? They're just like, what?
Well, now I have to.
Well, I'm a total pacifist with people. I just destroy worlds. The people are.
Yeah. Also, Tassi, do you have anything you wanted to share before we play a song and close out?
Nah, I'm old school. Right now, I am upscaling a movie, The Traveler. It's a French movie from 1992. I was going to do that tonight. Yeah, I found a 5 gigabyte version, but I want to try to get it up to about 25 and try a couple of experiments. I may even take it and go in by frame. Like sometimes, because when it upscales, it looks a little funky. So a lot of times I go into the pupils in an art studio project and reshape them and recorrect them, stick the frame back in, and then reformat the movie, and then I'll try to upscale it. That actually works better than just, I'm going to use an upscale program. And that's.
But you're trying to.
It's a lot of work, but you can make some good quality stuff that way better than a typical. You can even take a cheap free AI program that way and do a better job with it. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I've seen people taking like TV shows from the 80s and then training film, and then they actually get it to look like film pretty well. Like we're getting close to that capacity, which is
and you don't have to take every frame. You can take like so many few frames and fix the eye, and AI will pick up on it. It's like, I got you. And then it'll fix it and recorrect it. So I do a lot of stuff like that. But my actual music, I'm old school, man. I go do studio work. I play resorts, and you just got to find me. I'm all over the country, but yeah, right.
Yeah, dude, this guy jams all the time. Yeah, that's why we got to get him with the Wrecking Crew.
I play Padre Island every January, the end of January through February, a few weeks. I play the Isla Grande Resort there a few times a year. It's a nice place. They used to do the big a spring break down there, and we get a lot of people. It's a nice place to vacation. You can watch me play for a few weeks each year doing that. So I do that.
Based. Dude, now I got to check out. You're talking about the Visiteurs, right? That movie with
No, it's La Bean. Shoot, it's called. It's hard to find. If you try to do a Google search on it, you're going to get that wrong one. It's.
You'll have to send it to me.
Yeah.
What year is? I just
1992.
Oh, cool. There's something I've always wanted to see, and that's like if you could get like an AI filter to like animate something like in the style of those old Disney movies, like, and just like take something like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas and just animate the whole thing like almost like maybe like Waking Life style, and just like is it? I don't know. I see it in my head how fucking cool that would be. But yeah, I don't know. If you guys figure out how to do that, let me know. If you can process a filter on a whole movie. AI
El
animation.
Beso del Sueño.
Oh.
Which is Spanish, but it's supposed to be a French. The movie
Right, I was kind of
actors are
confused on
mostly
that. I was
French.
like,
How do I spell it? How do I spell it?
El Beso del Sueño.
El Beso del Sueño. I got it. Sorry.
Yeah,
okay. The Dream's Kiss. Yeah, there we go. The Dream's Kiss. Ooh.
Dream's Kiss.
Spicy cover. Of course, you know, if you wanted to rent a cassette tape in that time, it had to look like that. Right? You wouldn't have rented
I believe Maribel Verde is a French actress, I believe. And it's basically still directed Rafael Marina Alba. Yeah, I don't know. That still doesn't sound French. But it's supposed to be a French movie. I don't know. I do that with a lot of movies. I'm all over the place with movies like David. You know, I don't get as deep as you, but I do love to remake and take old vintage movies and upscale them. I do that for fun.
Nice. You know what? I might want your assistance sometime if it interests you, because I have like some like movies that I'm like they're so rare, and if the quality is so like it doesn't have that digital integrity at all. Like if you're interested, if you do stuff like that, and if it's something that actually you felt inspired to run with, man, I got some requests. I just there's like a list of extremely rare movies that I've been looking for years, and I think I may have just gotten a lead from this guy who owns a local bookstore that he can help me find some of them. But yeah, I have like really obscure movies I want to find.
Dude, I'm trying to make a real quick batch of art, and I don't think this quite is what you meant when you said you wanted like a Disney Fear and Loathing. But
sure, I'm open to whatever.
This stuff, it looks a little bit more like a DreamWorks film so far. But I did do some Kubrick Lego movie stuff, and I think that could be really good. Like there's definitely something there with Dr. Strangelove as Legos, you know, like that could work, right? That could be, there it is right there. Yeah, but go ahead. What were you saying, Dave? Sorry.
Oh, me? Oh, I don't even know if I was saying anything. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was going to try to do like the family film version. Here we go. There we go. There's the family-friendly Pixar Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas with your family and kids, right? That's the way that movie would have gone. There would have been a crazy, zany kid character the whole time with a cigarette behind his ear. That would have been good. And then,
So these are movies to come in 2025, right?
Yeah, we're going to have to make... I love the idea of, you know, racial diversity with Hunter S. Thompson. Like, if he was black, that would be cool. I have no problem with it. And then also just a family loathing in Las Vegas. Might be... There's something to that. Okay. All right.
National Lampoons.
National Lampoons. I do owe B Hard Man a song. I was thinking about playing this one. I hope you guys like it. Here we go.
Much love.
Yeah. I'm a woke leftist communist. They go to the core, spreading peace and love, but you can't ignore. Gonna reshape the world, make it all fair and square. No more private property, we're all gonna share. Call me PC, cause I'm politically correct. Using words like weapons, gotta show respect. Manipulate the language, control the narrative. Make you question everything, make you wanna live.
You know nothing and be happy.
This is satire, right? You're being satirical.
I think so. I'm involved in the satire.
You guys are gonna eat bugs, and those bugs are gonna be buttery lobsters.
That's a good drum sample. I like this. Yeah.
All right. I love you
I like
guys.
your snare.
I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.